Capcom. Alright, everybody. It's the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. And this game rules. This game is awesome. So before we begin, I just want to check some settings to make sure everything's on. Yep. Let's see, text box set to high. That's what we want. Okay, language. Voices can be either Japanese or English. We want English because I'm not that much of a hipster. So that's the way it shall stay. Anyway, this is a courtroom drama. You play the role of a defense attorney. You have a client. You spar with a prosecutor. You cross-examine witnesses. You collect evidence. The most crucial of which usually comes in right at the end, enabling you to confront the real killer on the witness stand, compelling them to confess. Truth and justice prevail, yada yada yada. So basically it's like your average episode of Matlock. So anyway, this is actually 2 games in 1. It's the Great Ace Attorney 1 and 2. And these came out on Nintendo 3DS, I believe like 7 or 8 years ago. They were compiled just a couple years ago for a release on Switch and I believe PlayStation 5 and Xbox, whatever the hell ever. And I was really excited. I got it right away. I played through the first couple episodes rather, and then I got distracted by something and I never finished. And I don't know why, because I love this game. But actually, this is a really long game, so let's just jump right into this. Let's get started, and I'll tell you more about the game as we play. Let's watch this opening anime.
The Empire of Japan. After opening its doors, a push for cultural transformation brought great waves of Western influence to this far eastern island nation. The revolution washed over the land, making life in the capital exciting and unsettling. It was a period of great change, and some was swept away by the tide.
Starting things off with a bang.
But for one man, the turbulence of that era was just the beginning of an extraordinary story.
Record scratch. Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I wound up in this situation. Episode 1. The Adventure of the Great Departure. So this is a spin-off of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, which is a parody of the Japanese legal system, because I guess at the time that the game was released, it was really easy to get railroaded if you were ever accused of a crime in Japan. I think things have changed since then. I hope so anyway. But that game is related to this one insofar that this is actually a prequel. This is set like a century before Phoenix Wright. I believe the main character of this game is actually Phoenix's ancestor, and some other characters in this game are also ancestors of other Ace Attorney characters, and I'll point those out as we see them, or at least as I recognize them. So I still can't believe it. I still can't believe this is happening. How can it be that just beyond the doors to this quiet little chamber is the highest court in Japan, waiting to decide my fate? By the way, I'm not going to read every single line, because I'll be dead by the end of this if I do. So I'll read select lines. Look at this bailiff calling us a murderer, staring us down. I think that's a violation of our constitutional rights, sir. Now, as an English speaker, you're probably looking at this guy's name, trying to parse this out. You're probably like Ryu no Suk or something like that. And it's actually Ryunosuke, because the Japanese language does not have vowels. I think it's more syllable based, so they don't have the silent e that modifies the preceding vowel. So it's Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Enough of a dork to know that, but rest assured I will be butchering many Japanese names in this game. I'm a second-year student at the Imperial Yume University. 3 days ago, I somehow found myself in the middle of a horrifying incident. And now, here I am, awaiting my trial. That's enough. He's not obliged to listen to such abuse, officer. And who are you? I'm this man's lawyer. I'll be defending him today. Lawyer? Yes, I'm a representative counsel in a legal hearing. Look, we're not discussing that right now. The point is that until the judge has given his verdict on the case, no one has the right to treat him as a criminal. So you will hold your tongue. Technicalities. Look at you. You haven't even graduated yet. And yet, I still seem to know better than you how a court officer should behave. Right, Ryunosuke? Now look at this guy's bandana blowing in a wind inside that is not affecting anything else. So, as dry as a courtroom drama sounds, I assure you there is a lot of levity in this game. This game is awesome. I love this series. So, anyway. Oh, yes, of course. Sorry. What are you apologizing to me for? Oh, No, I suppose that wasn't my fault. But really, Kazuma, I never meant to drag you into this. I'm sorry. There you go again, apologizing. Just like always. Though I must say, you've been all over the newspapers these past few days. Yume University professor murdered in cold blood by a student. But obviously, you didn't actually do it, did you? Of course not. You have to believe me. I didn't do it. That headline is defamatory. We should sue after I'm acquitted. I could never murder someone. Then there's nothing to worry about. Straighten yourself up. Hold your head high. You mean... I believe you. I know you're innocent, Ryunosuke. Oh, here comes the cat, because she hears me talking. Kazuma Asogi, my best friend. Also in his second year at Yume University. But he's far more clever than I. A star student, in fact. Ryunosuke is quite taken by Kazuma. I've noticed. He's even a qualified lawyer. Impressive considering he's still... It's not that impressive. He cut me off. The very concept of a lawyer is only a few years old, here in Japan anyway. My qualifications don't mean much, yet. You said exactly the same thing 3 days ago. But I'm proud to have a friend like you, Kazuma. Truly. Okay. Settle down. Cat always hears me talking and has to come out. Anyway, where were we? 3 days ago. Yes, that's when all this started. Congratulations, Kazuma. It looks like you're going to get to study abroad at last. I know, and what a broad she is. I've been forever dreaming of this day. Finally, those government elites have acknowledged my academic achievements and successes in court. So you'll be representing Japan as you immerse yourself in the most sophisticated legal system in the world. I'm really happy for you and proud as your friend. And I have the vapors. There's not a soul in the university who doesn't know Kazuma's name. He's a living legend. It's like there's some mysterious aura billowing around his temple. Jeez, Renosuke. I want to bring about change in our own legal system. That's why I have to cross the ocean to see the real thing with my own eyes. The heart of the British Empire, I wish I could see it too. Then come with me. We'd have a wild time tearing up the streets of Her Majesty's City of London together. Wow, that sounds romantic, Kazuma. I mean, if only it were that simple. Oh dear, look at the time. I'd better be going. Alright, I'll see you later. I think I'll stay and enjoy this place a while longer. Good idea. After all, it's not every day you get to visit a high-class Western restaurant like this. See you in English class tomorrow, then, partner. And he beams up to the Enterprise. It was straight after that. That's when it happened. Sogi, may I have a word? Okay, that woman will be a pivotal character later. Professor, I didn't know you were coming. Well, this case has personal significance to me. But never mind that for now. Asogi? You should go immediately to the judge's chambers. To His Excellency's chambers? Why? He was looking for you before. You advocating for the defense, and don't rub your face on the mic, Lucy. Come on. Okay, you advocating for the defense, spelled with a C rather than an S, in this trial was a sudden decision. So yeah, this game appears to have been localized into English by a British team. Most likely because most of this game takes place in England, so that was probably a conscious decision to do that. Anyway, it seems there may be some confusion about procedures today as a result. Who is this man? I feel as though I've seen him at university before. I see. I'll go at once then. I shall accompany you. All right then, Renosuke. I'll see you in the courtroom. Yes, thanks, Kazuma. Awkward. If I may. Yes, sorry. You must be the defendant. Renosuke Naruhodo, I believe. Yeah, that's what Kazuma just referred to me as. That's right. My name is Yujin Mikotoba. I'm a professor of forensic medicine at Yume University. Ah, Professor Mikotoba. I've heard that name from Kazuma before. As I recall, he's been pushing to get the government to agree to Kazuma studying abroad. And what abroad she is. I mean, Asogi has told me about you. You and he are best friends, I understand. As such, I feel you should know. Know what? Well, as you've no doubt heard, Asogi has been granted permission to go and study in Great Britain. However, if he should fail to defend you in today's trial, I'm afraid that that permission will be revoked and never granted again. What? As I suspected, you were unaware of this. I had a feeling Asogi may have chosen not to tell you. He's agreed to defend me, knowing that if he fails, his dreams will be shattered? But I don't understand. Why would the government do such a thing? The administration has to choose from a large number of applicants for overseas study. It's very difficult to persuade them to grant permission, even in the most favorable of circumstances. I don't believe it. But I didn't do it, I swear it. I'm not a murderer. I'm sure that's true. Nevertheless, I can assure you that proving your innocence will be no easy task. You see, there are certain peculiarities about today's trial. Sorry? What do you mean? You'll soon understand once proceedings get underway. I was doing really good without getting tongue-tied until just now. But then what should I do? Well, naturally, I'm not going to suggest doing anything that could lead to a conviction. Right. So, as soon as the trial starts, the judge will pose a certain question to the defense with a C. When that happens, you must answer before anyone else. You must say, I do. I do? But what will the question be? Surely not, will you take this man as your lawfully wedded surely it's not, do you accept the accusations brought before you? Of course not. Defendant! Court is about to begin. Proceed to the courtroom at once. Ah, it would seem our surreptitious discussions are to be cut short. So allow me to summarize. Kazuma Asogi must not be the defense lawyer in this trial. Of course, as the defendant, the final decision is yours. What are you waiting for? Do you want to be found guilty for failing to appear? Get moving! There's no point in anyone advocating for the likes of you anyway. This is it. If this trial goes badly, Kazuma's dreams of studying abroad are over, and what's more, I'll be found guilty of murder. And so, with absolutely no idea what lay ahead, I embarked on that unforgettable trial. My one and only chance of proving my innocence, the trial that would decide my destiny. 22nd December, 9 a.m. sharp, Supreme Court of Judicature, courtroom number 2. So this is a courtroom. The Supreme Court of Judicature. No court in the land has more power. I don't much like the look of those people sitting in the public gallery. Lots of military and other uniforms in there. The powers that be have demanded that this be a secret trial. A secret trial? A trial that's closed to ordinary members of the public. Only military and government officials may attend. What? But why? It'll soon become clear in time, but for now, you need to concentrate, Ryunosuke. It's about to begin. The court will now hear the trial of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. The prosecution is ready, Your Excellency. Okay, this guy's Ouchie. He is the ancestor of prosecutor and nemesis of Phoenix Wright, Winston Payne, and his twin brother, Waylon Payne. Winston Payne and Waylon Payne. And this guy's name is Ouchie. Lovely pun names. As is the defense with a C. Before we begin, there is one point of order I would like to confirm. Yesterday evening, the defense with the C made a last-minute request for a change of advocate. That's correct, Your Excellency. I made the request myself. Normal procedure is for the defendant's advocacy to be decided 2 days prior to trial. As this is an unusual circumstance, I am obliged to ask for final confirmation now. Who advocates for the defendant in this trial? This is it. This must be the question. Who's going to defend me? That's the question the professor meant. But then, if I say I do, I need to answer quickly. What should I do? I always go with the first choice. Your Excellency, no confirmation is needed. As I'm standing here beside the defendant, I hope it's clear who... Get him raise his hand like he's in class. What is the meaning of this unruly outburst? I would like to inform the court that I, Ryunosuke Naruhodo, will be defending myself. You'll be... What? Nani? What are you playing at, Ryunosuke? Professor Mikotoba told me everything just now before the trial. He did what? He said that your dreams of studying abroad would be dashed if you were to lose. How sad. It means you don't have faith in me. You think I won't be able to get you off. Oh, I assure you, Kazuma, that is not true. No, it's not that, really. It's just that, well, on the off chance that things don't go well for me, I couldn't bear to be the reason that you... Yes. I knew that's how you'd feel, which is exactly why I decided not to tell you. Professor Mikotoba shouldn't have stuck his nose in. Very well. The court hereby recognizes the defendant's desire to advocate for himself in today's trial. Truly, the defendant has a fool for a client. Well, well. Does the accused admit defeat already, renouncing his own counsel? Really? Objection! Objection. Make no mistake, counsel. This merely shows that the defendant's innocence is so apparent, he's confident he can speak for himself. Isn't that so, Naruhodo-san? I will probably skip the honorifics, just because I don't think they're really that necessary. Oh, yes, exactly. Exactly what I wasn't thinking. I'm not confident at all. In fact, my mind's completely blank. I realize you're in charge now, but still, try not to look so bewildered. Well, for a mere university student to be brought before the Supreme Court, you must have perpetrated a most heinous crime indeed. As you are no doubt aware, this is the Supreme Court of Judicature of Japan. Accordingly, the very highest standards of conduct are expected of all present. Do I make myself clear, Defendant Naruhodo? Yes, Your Excellency. It is therefore my duty to assess your competence for the task you have undertaken. My competence? Okay, this part of the game, this is like the tutorial. It teaches you how to play. Where Naruhodo's like, how do I do this? And then Kazuma's going to be like, well, you press the buttons on the controller to do this. He's questioning your ability to do your job. Well, he can't be questioning it any more than I am. So let's start with the very simplest questions. Okay, yeah, whatever. Kindly state before the court the name of the victim in this case. Well, that's easy enough. I've heard his name more times than I'd care to remember. But, wait, I'm so nervous I can't even remember that. I can't even remember that. What was it again? Renosuke. Let me guess, your mind's gone blank. You know me so well. All the relevant information for this case can be found in the court record, but I can't even find that. It's simple. You can access the court record with a press of the RB button. I'm going to break the fourth wall to tell you what buttons to press on the controller. If you ever find you've forgotten something, just consult that. It's all in there. I just have to press the RB button for the court record. Alright, there's no time to lose. Okay, this is the list of evidence you've collected. Now try switching to people with the RB. Okay, so we have Kazuma here. We have Professor Miko Toba. We have Ouchi. And we have John H. Wilson, who is obviously our victim. Okay, you'll find details about the victim in here. When you've done, just press B to go back. Okay. So remember, everything to do with the current case can be found in the court record. Now you'd better not keep His Excellency waiting any longer. Go on. Find the victim in the people section of the court record and then press Y to present. Try it now. Okay.
Yes.
Unless you think there's some in-universe explanation for press this button to do that, keep in mind this takes place in like the late 1800s or possibly even like early turn of the century, so there are no game controllers. The victim's name was Dr. John H. Wilson. Mr. Wilson! Well, at least you can remember the name of an esteemed member of your own university. Dr. Wilson was a visiting professor from England, invited to Yume University 3 years ago. Indeed. Which is the reason why this case has such profound implications. The British Empire is at present our country's most valuable foreign ally. And as most of you will be aware, we have just signed a new treaty together after lengthy negotiations. There can't be anyone who hasn't heard of the Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation. And yet, despite these delicate circumstances, the blood of an Englishman has been spilt with a T on our soil. Sorry, I am going to make fun of the British spellings of certain words. You two are both undergraduates at the Imperial Yume University, are you not? Murdering a professor from the very institution that provides your education. Have you no honor? But I didn't do it. This case is coming under great scrutiny from our allies on the other side of the world. The court therefore wishes for a speedy resolution to this matter. In other words, our feeble government is scared of upsetting England's policymakers. And you're a convenient and expendable scapegoat to blame for this crime. So that's why this trial has these unusual peculiarities, is it? Exactly. Our government needs to convict someone as quickly as possible. All because the victim was an Englishman. Yes, Dr. Wilson was an Englishman. But nationalities and treaties won't make any difference for me here. The fact is, I was there at the scene of the crime. Oh dear, look at the... Okay, this is stuff we've already seen. Flashbacks. See you in English class tomorrow. Beam me up, Scotty. The British Empire. Wow. It's incredible to think. Wait. I've seen that man at university. I'm sure he's a visiting damn it. I'm sure he's a visiting professor from Great Britain. I don't know his name, but still, I should go and say hello. So I went over to the professor's table and introduced myself to Dr. Wilson. Now then, let me pose my next question to you, Defendant Naruhodo. Yes, Your Excellency. How did this professor of medicine, Dr. John H. Wilson, lose his life? State before the court the cause of death. Lead poisoning. Cause of death. Well, obviously that was, Renosuke. Remember that in the court record, every assertion must be backed up by evidence. By evidence? But how? Find the piece of evidence that shows the professor's cause of death and select present. Do it now! Okay, here it is. Death occurred about after 2 p.m. Alright. Okay.
Yes!
Yes! Well, according to this document, the victim suffered a hemorrhagic death due to gunshot trauma. Learn to read, you imbecile. That's the post-mortem report, I take it. Sorry, yes, that's right. The post-mortem report. In the West, a doctor dissects corpses to identify the cause of death in an autopsy. But here in Japan, a police officer merely inspects the body and draws conclusions that way. Oh, I see. As long as I'm not going to be tested on any of this later. This is a so-called photographic print of the scene of the crime. You can clearly discern scorch marks around the bullet hole produced by the gunpowder explosion. In other words, we should assume that the victim was shot at close range. Thank you, counsel. The court will accept this modern and scientific evidence into the record. The photographic print of the victim has been entered into the court record. So that's a photographic print. Well, that's something I've never seen before. It's clearly superior to a drawing. The detail is incredible. Very well. I am satisfied with your answers. Let us start the trial. Certainly, Your Excellency. So without further ado, in order to better apprise the court with the facts of the case, the prosecution hereby calls its first witness, who was there at the scene of the crime when it happened. Ugh. This is it then. I think I may have worked out what the professor had in mind. The professor? You mean Dr. Mikotoba? No, the professor from Gilligan's Island. Yeah, clearly you're the defense lawyer today, not me. But that doesn't mean... Well, I can still act as your assistant. Ah, of course. When he was speaking with me before, he simply said, Kazuma Asogi must not be the defense lawyer in this trial. He really has been sticking sticking his oar in, hasn't he? Maybe, but any help you can give me would be greatly appreciated, Kazuma. Well, my first piece of advice is rein in that crazy look of bewilderment and control the cold sweats. Only if you rein in that crazy headband and control the cold stares first. Oh, waiter. Witness, state your name and occupation for the court, please. Of course, my name is Satoru Hosonaga. I am the head waiter at a Western-style restaurant called La Carnival. And I have pneumonia. Are you all right? You seem to be coughing up some, It's a regular occurrence. It really doesn't bother me. Well, if I'm eating at your restaurant, it kind of bothers me. It really should bother you. As everyone knows, the capital's southeastern quarter was developed for foreign visitors some years ago. It's become a very fashionable district now, full of hotels to accommodate overseas guests. This grim crime occurred in one of the district's so-called restaurants, an Occidental eatery, 3 days ago. Understood. Hosonaga, you will kindly tell the court everything you can about the incident. At once, sir. And no petty interjections from the aspiring lawyer boy, please. Oh, perspiring maybe, but aspiring? It was just 2 p.m. on the day in question. We have few diners at that time of day. The lunchtime rush was over, and there were only 3 tables still occupied. That fits with my memory of it, too. There was hardly anyone else in the place. Pardon my Ebola here, but it was when I was in the kitchen putting away crockery and cutlery. A gunshot rang out, so I hurried out to the dining area to see what had happened. I found the victim, an English gentleman, slumped in his chair. And standing immediately beside him, gun in hand, was the accused university student. Yes! I mean, no! Hold on. Let me just clarify something here. While I did pick up a gun that I found lying on the floor beside the professor, I didn't shoot him. Objection! I believe I asked you to refrain from petty interjections. The court wishes to listen to the witness's report of what he saw, you amateur. But the next time you interrupt at an inappropriate time, you will be penalized, Defendant Naruhodo. Don't worry, Renosuke. You'll have your chance to fight back. For now, we must just quietly listen to the witness. Ugh. If I may confirm one point, waiter. Standing beside the victim with a gun in his hand was the same man we see here in court today? Yes, without question. I see. And apart from the accused, was there anyone else standing beside the victim? No. There was no one else around the table but the deceased Englishman and the university student. Huh? Wait, what did he just say? There was no one else around that table? What's the matter, Renosuke? That's just not right. That's not right. You're talking like a crazy person. When I went over to Dr. Wilson to say hello, there was a woman sitting opposite him at the table. Really? And that's not something the waiter could have missed. I've been warned about interjecting, but still, what should I do? Interject?
Yes!
Yes! I mean, no, just a minute, please. Dr. Wilson wasn't alone that day. I'm sure of it. There was a lady sitting with him at the same table. Objection! Dear me, what are we going to do with you? With your blatant disregard for court proceedings, I'm beginning to wonder if you're not a fraud. Could it be that the accused, this mere student, is not a real lawyer after all? But I'm sure of what I saw. Osunaga, is there any chance that you're mistaken? Perhaps your memory of events is hazy? No. The deceased gentleman came to dine alone. I don't believe it. That is why you fail. I actually have a rough plan of the restaurant as it was that day. Please have a look at it if you'd like to. Let me see. A sketch of the establishment's layout, drawn by yourself, I presume? That's right. I'm afraid I used the back of my business card. It was a turbulent situation. However, as you can see, the gentleman in question was seated alone. Well, you're clearly a very conscientious waiter. Conscientious waiter. Thank you, sir. The court will take this plan and add it to the court record as evidence. Well, is there a problem? Hand the plan to the court officer at once. Of course. Here you are. What was that about? He's been completely calm and collected until now. Now, if you got your Moderna shot, that wouldn't be happening. Something certainly seems to have shaken him. Waiter's business card has been entered into the court record. So, the court has now heard the precise of the case. That's a word I'm not familiar with. The precis? Is that what that is? Yes, at the moment the gunshot was heard in the restaurant, the only person in close proximity to the victim was the defendant on trial today. It would seem we are looking at a black and white case here. Defendant Naruhodo, yes, Your Excellency. If you admit your guilt at this stage, the court is willing to look mercifully upon you. In other words, you may have some small reprieve in terms of your inevitable punishment. I called this waiter as an unsworn witness in order to explain the details of the case to the court. But I must warn the defense, if you are determined to pursue matters further in this trial, the prosecution has decisive evidence from sworn witnesses who were present at the scene of the crime. What do you think I should do, Kazuma? What do you mean? Well, I'm going to be found guilty one way or another, it seems. Wouldn't it be sensible to plead guilty at this stage and hope for a more lenient sentence? Everyone keeps telling me that this trial is unusual, about these peculiarities. You've said it, Professor Mikotoba said it. and so has the judge and the prosecution. I'm scared of what lies ahead if I push this. As I said from the outset, I believe you're innocent. I trust you. And yet, despite knowing that, you're willing now to throw that trust back in my face? Is that it? What? If the accused is in fact innocent, then a defense lawyer is duty-bound to prove that innocence by whatever means necessary. Are you just going to abandon that duty? Are you going to give up on yourself? The battle hasn't even begun yet, Renosuke. The defense pleads not guilty, Your Excellency. We invite the prosecution to stop making empty threats and bring out its witnesses. Bring it on! Then we'll see just how decisive this evidence really is. Clack. Indeed. Prosecutor Ouchi, please continue with proceedings. Well, you were warned. The young can be so reckless. You know, many call me a saint, but I can be a devil when I want to be. Ugh. In a few short moments from now, that dumbstruck young mouth of yours will be silenced forever. The prosecution calls its next witnesses. Very well, officer. Bring forth the witnesses at once. We're going to have two witnesses at the same time. This is something from Phoenix Wright versus Professor Layton, where they had both characters met up in a medieval town of sorts, and they had these witch trials, and you had multiple witnesses at the same time, and you got to cross-examine all of them simultaneously. And there wasn't really a thing in the original Phoenix Wright games, but they introduced it in the crossover, and so this game, The Great Ace Attorney, was a way to bring that back into the regular series, or at least an offshoot of it. Anyway, witnesses, kindly state your names and occupations for the court. Oh, this guy. Yes, sir. The Great Nippon Imperial Army Sergeant Iyesa Nosa, reporting for duty, sir. Myself, I find employ as a purveyor of fine articles of antiquity from the efflorescence of our nation, Nippon. Nippon is Japan, by the way. And conduct my trade from Rasutai, a humble premises in the 2nd District, Curio Kore Kuta, at your service. Told you I'd butcher some of these names. An antique dealer and a soldier. What an unusual pairing. But they're cousins. No. Both of these gentlemen were present at the restaurant on the day in question. They must be diners at the they must be diners at the other table that the waiter mentioned. Myself, I habitually take tea of the most exquisite aroma at the establishment in question, always post-noon, and not infrequently converse with interested parties regarding the curios with which I make my business. I can't understand a word that old man is saying. He's an antique dealer. It sounds like he's a regular at La Carnival. He seeks out potential customers who may have an interest in antiques and tries to sell his wares to them. He obviously targets La Carnival because it's a high-class restaurant with rich clientele. Right, I see. Although, to be honest, that sergeant looks more like he'd be a seller rather than a buyer. Now, both of you both witnessed the precise moment of this most atrocious incident. Is that correct? Affirmative! The enemy unit was seen attacking the foreigner in what can only be described as an act of war, sir! It was that black uniformed rogue infantryman over there who unloaded his firearm, sir. This man's as impossible to understand as the other. But I'm almost sure I heard a strange noise during that last thing he said. So, this is the decisive evidence the prosecution was threatening. The soldier is claiming that he actually saw the precise moment you shot the victim dead. Yes, no, I didn't shoot him. Well, are you starting to feel uncomfortable? If I'm to be honest, I was feeling uncomfortable from the start. Now, the court will hear your formal testimony, please. You will state everything you saw at the precise moment that the incident occurred. Sir, yes, sir. Standing by, ready to report, sir. Unsavory memories of a most acerbic afternoon. Somebody was using a thesaurus when they translated this. I was ingesting a regular beef steak at the restaurant while having a tactical discussion with the old man. Myself, I was extolling the virtues of a particularly fine golden curio to the military gentleman. At the precise moment the firearm was discharged, I observed the enemy actions with my own eyes. The black uniformed varsity cadet fired on the English civilian, and from the back, the cowardly little weasel. I was on my hands and knees investigating the whereabouts of my mysteriously absconded precious curio. Well, so you, Sergeant Nosa, actually witnessed the vital moment? You saw the split second when the defendant fired the weapon at the victim? Yes, sir. Affirmative, sir. The wicked university cadet, sir. The cruel and unforgivable enemy. Pfeh. Cannot talk. What times we live in when an English gentleman may be assailed in the broad light of day. But this is ridiculous. I didn't shoot anyone. Is this really true, Renosuke? Yes, all I did was pick up the gun that I saw lying on the floor. After I'd said hello to Dr. Wilson, I went back to my table and sat drinking some coffee. Then, when I'd finished, I got up from my seat to leave the restaurant when I noticed an English-made gun next to the chair where the professor was sitting. I thought perhaps the professor had dropped it, so I bent down and just as I was picking it up, bang! DDP appeared and hit the diamond cutter on Dr. Wilson. Well, if that's the truth, there was obviously a criminal on the scene somewhere. And somewhere in these two witnesses' testimonies, there's a clue as to who that criminal was. There is? Renosuke, you must exercise your right to cross-examine the witnesses. Cross-examine? Do it now! And as we have heard, Your Excellency, there is no room for doubt in the testimony of these witnesses. The defendant is clearly guilty. It's time to bring this despicable student to justice. Certainly, the testimony the court has just heard eliminates any vestige of doubt. Therefore, it is my grave duty to declare the verdict of... Yes, I mean no. What in the name of the Emperor is the meaning of this outburst? I mean, the defense objects to this premature adjudication. We demand... The defense demands its right to cross-examination. Dear me, dear me. Let me guess. The Hachimaki headband boy next door told me to do it. How pathetic. How did he know? The prosecution objects. This is a clear waste of time. The defendant obviously has no experience. How can he possibly carry out a cross-examination? Objection. The defense is asserting its right to a cross-examination. Whether or not you think he's capable of it is irrelevant. Kazuma is so commanding and dreamy. Very well. Let the defense conduct a cross-examination of the witnesses. Alright, this is where the battle really begins, Renosuke. But I don't even know what I have to do in a cross-examination. Isn't it obvious? You have to expose the lies in the witnesses' statements. How? You didn't fire the gun, which means what that soldier said has to be a lie. Well, yes, but it's just a case of proving it, and the key to doing that is evidence. Right, evidence. All you need to do is present some decisive and indisputable evidence that proves the witness is lying. Now let's go, Renosuke. Don't let them beat you. Alright then. It's all or nothing. I guess forget what I said about not reading every line. I guess that's exactly what I'm doing. Okay. I was ingesting... Oh, he already said this. So, myself, I was extolling the virtues of a particularly fine golden curio. At that precise moment, the firearm was discharged. I observed the enemy's action with my own eyes. The black uniformed varsity cadet fired on the English civilian. And from the back... Yes! Wait a minute. So this black uniformed university cadet, you're saying that was... I've had just about enough of your sauce, cadet. Who else do you see around here in a black uniform, Well, there's someone standing right next to me who fits the description as well, but... It was you! You little weasel! You unloaded the firearm on that man! From behind his back! And you call yourself a citizen of the great empire of Nippon? You disgust me! What is it, Renosuke? I'm not quite sure. It's something that the sergeant just said, but I can't put my finger on it. Something's playing on my mind. In that case, check back over the details of the evidence you've gathered in the court record. If you find an inconsistency there with what the witness just said, then don't hold back. Present the evidence to the court, thrust it in the witness's face, and make him choke on it. Oh, I got an achievement there. Okay, let's back up, because I'm pretty sure I know what the problem is. Yeah, I also cleared out all of my Steam achievements, so those will be showing up on the video as well. Okay. Yeah, there it is. yeah, we established this. It was from the front.
Yes!
Yes! He knows. What are you playing at, cadet? What is the meaning of this subordination? Thrusting some photographic print in my mustache. Inconsistency, sir. I mean, yes. There's an inconsistency. I didn't get to read that. What nonsense. What can this print possibly tell us that we don't already know? Well, obviously, that, I know what I want to say, but the words just won't come out of my mouth. I think this proves beyond any doubt, Your Excellency, that there is no place for an amateur student here in this grand courtroom. This is so frustrating. Oh, please. Surely this doesn't require an explanation. Couldn't be more plain. To spell it out would be an insult to the court. Kazuma, what? What are you talking about? And don't call me Shirley. It's apparent from a single glance at this photographic print presented by the defense that there's a clear discrepancy here with the sergeant's statement. What? Nani? Sergeant Iesanosa? Yes, sir. What, sir? The statement you just made was this. The black uniformed varsity cadet fired on the English civilian. From the back, the cowardly little weasel. Yes, sir. Affirmative, sir. I witnessed the crime with my own military-grade eyes, sir.
Yes!
Yes. I mean, no, you didn't. That can't be. And why not, cadet? Because take a quick look at this print. The victim, Dr. Wilson, died from a bullet wound to the chest. Sergeant, according to your witness statement, the culprit shot the victim from behind. And that is the obvious discrepancy here. Well, how do you explain it? Oh, what was that? Something just popped up from behind his back, but he pushed it down again. Certainly there is a clear discrepancy with the facts here. Would you not agree, Sergeant Nosa? Sir, yes. Yes, sir. At this juncture, that would appear to be indisputable. Until the moment I heard the firearm discharge, my eyes were firmly fixed on the delicious La Carnival steak, sir. What? Nani? Nani is what in Japanese. The last testimony the court heard has proven one thing beyond all reasonable doubt. This witness, Sergeant Iesanosa, did not see the defendant firing a gun at all. He is, in fact, a liar. That's absurd. I think the conclusion we must draw is simple. There is no place for an amateur prosecutor here in this grand courtroom. Throwing it back in his face. There's been a complete turnabout in the mood of this trial just from just from that one discrepancy. So this is what being an ace attorney is all about. But I definitely saw him. That university cadet there, he was pointing that firearm directly at the victim's back.
Yes!
Yes, I mean, no. But I never fired the gun. All I did was pick it up from the floor. And you, old man, you didn't see the moment the victim was shot either? Myself, I have already been quite clear. The gunshot interested me not. I was far too busy on the floor. Too busy on the floor? Sorry, what were you doing? Hunting for treasure. Treasure? Indeed, the Hoei Koban. The Hoei era Koban. My prized coin. On each occasion when I visit that restaurant, it is my habitude to place in my bosom pocket a particular trinket of interest from my shop, Rasutai. It's hard to read his lines. In the hope of meeting a rich diner who might like to buy it from you. On the day in scrutiny, it was to the military man that I proffered my Hoei treasure. Believed that he would purchase such a rare find. I did not. But I was presented with little alternative. And then, after averting my eyes for the briefest of moments, it was there no more. It simply vanished. The Koban vanished? Hunting around under the table I was. In case mayhap it had fallen there, and then it happened. Bang. You heard the gunshot, you mean? Indeed I did, but I heeded it not, for I was concerned only with finding my absconded Hoei treasure. Nothing could distract me. It's not really what happened in the opening anime. He clearly shot up and looked at where the gunshot came from. Out of interest, did you find the coin in the end? No. I see. That lamentable day, the precious Hoei Koban was lost to me. No doubt some unscrupulous scoundrel pocketed the prize coin for himself. As I am sure everyone present is aware, this case demands a swift and decisive resolution. Our government has promised to send a full report to Great Britain by telegraph this very afternoon. Nevertheless, the witness testimony the court has just heard was inconclusive. No matter how subservient our government feels it must be to the British, it would be unforgivable to deliver a verdict on this trial right now. What is your position, Prosecutor Ouchie? Worry not, Your Excellency. The defendant may have fled a tiger at the front gate, but he will find a wolf at the back. My witnesses have further testimony to make. Explain. Upon hearing their next statements, it will become abundantly clear that there is only one person who could possibly have committed this despicable crime. The equally despicable defendant, Renosuke Naruhodo. Nani? He really seems to have a despicable opinion of you, doesn't he? Very well. The court invites the witnesses to testify again. You will thoroughly explain the reasoning behind the prosecution's allegation. Is that clear? As clear as Kiriko glass, Your Excellency. Yes, sir, at once, sir. Awaiting signal to testify, sir. Excuse me, but there's something or someone peeking out over your shoulder, I think. Affirmative. The newest member of the Nosa family to rise up through the ranks, sir. Name Ido. Ido Nosa. Cute. It would seem those straps are a sign of the sergeant being too strapped to afford a nanny. Ido, attention! Your father is about to quell the enemy. Watch and learn, my boy. Witness testimony. The true culprit. Even if what I saw wasn't the precise moment the firearm was discharged, it's almost the same thing. Yes, pointing his gun at the foreign man he was. That young lad in black. That much I myself did see. Furthermore, a visual search of the premises at the time confirmed that we were the only personnel present. Indeed, alone he was, the Englishman, dining all by himself. Therefore, no one other than the black uniformed cadet could have dispatched the Englishman. Over and out. These testimonies are certain. Yes. I mean, no, wait. That's nonsense. The victim, Dr. Wilson, wasn't alone at all. You liars. Please, enough of these outbursts already. But there was a woman. There was a young woman at his table. You must have seen her. Everyone there must have seen her. Objection! You call yourself a lawyer, then you will respect the rules of the court and speak accordingly. We are not interested to listen in your fantasies. Ugh. It is evident beyond all reasonable doubt that the victim was alone at the time of the incident. The prosecution has photographic evidence of this fact. Is this a photographic print of the scene of the crime, counsel? Indeed. Of the table at which the victim was dining, taken by an investigator immediately after the incident. As can plainly be seen, there is only one place set. Certainly based on the appearance of this print, it would be reasonable to conclude that the victim was not in the company of anyone else. This doesn't make any sense. Court will add this new photographic evidence to the record. Print of the crime scene has been entered into the court record. Okay. I don't understand. What's going on here? It's just not possible that nobody else saw that woman. The waiter before said the same thing. He maintains that Dr. Wilson came to the restaurant alone as well. But that's not true. I saw her. I swear that I saw a woman with him. It would seem that we'll be able to telegraph the report to Great Britain on time after all. The witness testimonies we have just heard leave no further room for doubt. These are very sensitive political times, as we all know. The ink is still fresh on the treaty with Great Britain. To think I, Taketsuchi Auchi, will have contributed to the amity of these two great empires is an honor. How can this be happening? The judge is ready to rule. Stand tall, Renosuke. It's not over yet. What? What if... if what you say is true, then there's something going on here behind the scenes. And now is your chance to expose it, to draw out the truth in your cross-examination. I don't know, Kazuma. The defense is entitled to cross-examine the witnesses, but make it quick, understood? Rules can be so unbending at times. Yeah, finish your cross-examination before we throw you in prison where you belong. Okay. Let's see. Even if what I say, even if what I saw wasn't the precise moment. Okay, let's take a look at these. Yes, pointing his gun at the foreign man. Oh, it's just red and black. That much I myself did see. A more visual search of the premises at the time of confirm. Okay. Indeed, alone he was, the Englishman, dining all by himself. Therefore, no other than the black uniformed cadet could have dispatched the Englishman over and out. Okay. What do you think, Renosuke? What's the matter? I can't find anything. I can't find a clear discrepancy anywhere. I'm done for. I can't win this trial. No, 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 no! Listen, the first thing to do is calm down. You can't expect witness statements to be full of holes every time. So just take your time and try to tease more information out of them first. What do you mean? You can choose to either press or present against each of the witness statements. If a witness is saying something you're suspicious about, press him on it with LB. With a little luck, you may get more details which could prove to be crucial. Right, I see. The important point is, there's no sense in holding back. If anything even slightly jars with you, press the witness on it and press them hard. Alright, got it. I'll press them like blocks of tofu. The professor wasn't alone in the restaurant. I'm sure of it. And one way or another, this cross-examination is going to prove I'm right. It's time to press them for all they're worth. My fate depends on it. Alright, I guess we gotta start doing this. Yes. No, 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 it's not the same thing at all. For a start, I didn't fire that gun. I did not have firing relations with that pistol. We have a difference of... Oh, I'm sorry. We have a difference of opinion on that. The opinion of a uniformed officer versus that of a fledgling cadet. I don't think so. Consider this, defendant. Just a moment ago, I blinked. Did you? Did you see it? Did you see me blink? How could I? And yet, it is an undeniable fact that I did blink. Fan, 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 fan. So there you have it. Have what? Attention! The sound of the firearm rang in my ears, and the very next moment, I saw you waving the gun at the Englishman. I think that says it all, don't you? And let us not forget that the antiques dealer witnessed the accused in this most incriminating position as well. Isn't that so, Korekuta? Yes, pointing his gun at the foreign man he was. lead and black.
Yes.
That much I did see. Well, let's see about that. Yes, it may be true that I was holding the gun at that point in time. But I told you already that's only because I picked it up off the floor. Well, obviously, as the culprit, that's the only way you could explain it away. I had just finished drinking my coffee, and I was about to leave the restaurant when a flashback occurred. I noticed a gun on the floor at Dr. Wilson's feet, so I picked it up. And at exactly that moment, bang. How many times are we going to see this? A gunshot rang in my ears. Full of events beyond our control, life is. Sorry, what do you mean? In your case, you found a pistol on the floor and picked it up, which precipitated this testing predicament. Whereas conversely, I failed to pick up the Koban from the floor and find myself in an equally testing predicament as a result. Anyway, the fact remains, myself, I did see you, with pistol in hand, standing over the foreigner. Furthermore, a visual search of the premises confirmed that we are the only person present. You must have noticed someone else at Dr. Wilson's table. There was a lady there. Objection! As you have been at pains to point out time and time again, I feel I'm growing a callus in my ear. And yet, no one else appears to have caught even a glimpse of this woman. If only there'd been more people dining there at that time. Then someone else would have noticed her. Unfortunately, it was already 2 p.m. when it happened. The quiet time between lunch and dinner in any restaurant. I know. Of course, the place was almost empty. It's what you'd expect. Certainly 2 p.m. is neither here nor there in terms of a time to eat. I wonder if there was a reason why the victim was eating in that time of day, and why he was alone. Yes, Your Excellency, there was indeed a reason. There was? This was found in the victim's jacket pocket. What is that, Counsel? It is a medical report card, Your Excellency. Excellency? It would seem that the victim had an appointment at a clinic prior to visiting the restaurant. Hota Clinic. Yes, there would indeed appear to be an entry for the date in question. 19th November, noon to past 1 p.m. The very day of the incident. So the victim went for a late lunch following his appointment. The explanation couldn't be more simple. The prosecution felt no need to submit this evidence before, as it really has no bearing on the case. I wonder... What do you think, Renosuke? Well, it's hard to see how it could be related, really. Remember, we can request for it to be entered into the court record as evidence, if you think it could be useful. Should I ask Dr. Wilson's medical report card to be submitted? Yes, always say yes.
Yes!
Yes! If I may, I'd like to ask for the medical report card to be submitted as evidence, Your Excellency. On what grounds? The court has already heard conclusive witness testimony. Additional evidence would be extraneous. Not to mention that the victim's movement prior to his arrival at the restaurant are of no concern. Objection. Whether or not they are of concern is up to us to decide. We have a right to explore all possible avenues. I beg your pardon? You have no authority to refuse a perfectly valid request for the submission of evidence. Very well, the court will grant the defense's request. Youngsters these days are forever asserting their rights. It's a most disturbing trend. Officer, kindly add the victim's medical report card to the court record. There we go. What we need right now is new clues. We have to explore things from every possible angle, even if they don't seem relevant at first. Right, I hear you. You can conspire to prolong this trial as much as you like, but it's the day after the festival already for you. Or perhaps you'd forgotten that these witness testimonies leave no room for doubt. Feel free to reiterate for the accused, Korekuta. Indeed, alone he was, the Englishman. Okay, hang on. Now that we got a new piece of evidence. Actually, I also want to check this out. I thought there was more to do with that. Medical report card. So wait, I can't... Okay. I guess something else needs to happen before I can actually take a look at that.
Yes!
Yes! So you actually saw that with your own eyes, did you? The victim, Dr. Wilson, dining alone? That I did. Forgive me for the position I place you in. So the testimonies of the old man, the soldier, and the waiter all agree on that point. Isn't that interesting? Let us not forget the incontestable evidence we have to support their statements as well. As can clearly be seen, there is only a single beef steak on the victim's table, a meal for one. No. The antiques dealer, the sergeant, and the waiter testified before. It's not possible they're all lying. But if so, then why? If I'm perfectly honest, I have absolutely no idea. Therefore, no one other than the black uniformed cadet could have dispatched the Englishman.
Yes!
Why aren't you telling the truth? What did you say, cadet? I clearly remember. There was a woman sitting across the table from the professor. Perhaps one of you might not have noticed. But for both of you to have failed to see her, to see the professor's dining companion, that's just not possible. Unfortunately for you, Defendant Naruhodo, it's not just a case of these two witnesses alone. Sorry? The waiter, whose testimony the court heard earlier, clearly stated the same thing. He also said that the victim was alone. That's right. Precisely. In other words, you are the sole proponent of this phantom lady. But if such a woman were indeed present at the scene, the prosecution demands to see proof. And if no such proof exists, the prosecution demands that no further mention of this phantom woman be made. It is a blatant waste of the court's time. There's nothing I could say to that. Excellent work, Renosuke. We've gleaned some new information now. Well, yes, but I don't feel like it changes much. I can't see that it brings any real discrepancies to light. I wouldn't be so sure. Let me see that medical report card you got before. Oh, you mean this? Yes, this is a brand new piece of evidence. So perhaps we should examine it a little more in a little more detail. How exactly? You'll notice that some pieces of evidence bear a magnifying glass. These are the ones you may examine. Allow me to break the fourth wall yet again to show you how this works in your video game. Press A and you can take a closer look at the piece in question. Use the right thumbstick. Oh crap! I'm using an ASCII grip. I don't have a. I may have to switch controllers here. Hopefully, I can do that on the fly. Use the right thumbstick to pivot, to rotate the evidence in all directions and examine it from all angles. By using the left thumbstick, you can move the crosshairs around to hunt for clues that may have been missed before. If the crosshairs start to pulsate, press A to investigate further. If the crosshairs pulsate, you must investigate. So says Johnny Cochran. So, partner, I think you should take a closer look at this medical report card. See if there isn't something new to be learnt by examining it in more detail. Alright, I'll see what I can do. I need to use the left and right thumbstick and the A button to inspect any areas of evidence that look suspicious. Okay, hang on just a sec, folks, because I actually got to plug in a different controller to do this, because I thought I was going to get away with just using a digital-only controller, and I forgot that there were these moments of analog controls, so I'll be right back. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I'll have to trim down the video there, but anyway. Okay, so we can. Okay. It looks like this medical report card was first issued quite some time ago. It's possible a record of long-term. Oh, it's probably a record of long-term treatment. That's why. With a family doctor, I imagine. Well, I can't imagine going to a doctor, I mean. As long as I'm alive, I'm never consulting one. Well, if you were dead, there'd be no point. So you don't like doctors, then? Why would you? They make you drink horrible-tasting medicine, they give you painful injections, and then they demand lots of money from you for the privilege, all when you're at your lowest ebb. You sound like a model patient. With a bad case of stubbornness, no less, for which the only cure is very bitter medicine indeed. Okay. It says Hoda Clinic. on this medical report card. I hate clinics almost as much as I hate hospitals and surgeries. Aren't they all the same? When I was 5, I caught the only cold I've ever had in my life. And I remember, even though I felt awful already, I had to have this hideous injection in my right arm. Brr, I'll never forget it. Never in my whole life. Most people would give their right arm to have had only one cold in their whole life. Anyway, I don't think this is a clinic where they treat people for illnesses like that. Let's keep looking for clues. We don't want to miss anything. And I got an achievement. Excellent. I don't know what that was for, but we'll look at it later. Anyway, let's just go right to the last entry here. Let's have a look. This is some kind of medical history. Ah, and there's an entry for the day the professor was killed. Extraction of molar with topical anesthesia. Extraction of molar? You mean he had a tooth taken out? It would seem so. Just before the incident, he'd had a bad tooth removed. Perhaps they used laughing gas. That's the most modern practice in the West for pain relief. Yes, I've heard of this anesthesia. Although it's hard to believe there's anything that can actually stop you from feeling pain. Ah, there's a cautionary note from the medical practitioner as well. Strictly no food or drink besides water for the next 3 hours post-procedure until anesthetic effects have passed. Really? Sounds like information worth bearing in mind. Medical report card's information has been updated. Okay. With this new information, the meaning of that one particular statement totally changes. So I think it's time we listen to that testimony again, don't you? Definitely. Okay, okay. Not you. Indeed, alone he was, the Englishman, dining all by himself. Okay, I have to figure out where the buttons are now. Here we go.
Yes!
Yes! Well, I think, about what are you wittering, lad? Call yourself a lawyer? I wish I could, but first and foremost here, I'm the accused. Renosuke. Everyone stumbles on their words occasionally. Speaking of stumbling on words, under the circumstances, I wouldn't worry about it. Thanks, Kazuma. I could see it quite clearly in that cross-examination you just carried out. When you raised your hand straight up like that, so purposefully, you knew exactly what it was you wanted to say. Don't feel like you have to choose your words carefully. Just say what you're thinking. All right. And thanks for the advice. Korikuta. This is a medical report card belonging to the victim. I see. And I don't see. What of it, boy? Comparing what is written on this report card with your witness statement, something clearly doesn't add up. Objection! Dear me, have you forgotten my words so soon, you amateur? Sorry, what? You are not to interrupt court proceedings with your amateurish drivel. But let's see if I can explain in words you might understand. You idiot. Me smart. It was after 2 p.m. in the afternoon when the victim was murdered at the restaurant. Whatever he may or may not have done before that time is completely irrelevant. But that's... Remember, Renosuke, you don't have to use clever language or fancy words. Just make your point. Your Excellency, I believe we're finished here. There's surely no need to prolong this trial further. The witness testimonies the court has heard have been clear and concise. This medical report card has no bearing on the matter at all, for the simple reason that there is no one else besides the pale-faced pupil. This medical report card has nothing to do with the case? Do you really believe that? What? That outburst half petrified me, boy. Of course I believe it. How could it possibly be relevant? Perhaps because Hoda Clinic, which issues the report card, is a dental clinic. A dental clinic? Is that supposed to mean something to me? Perhaps if I told you that the victim had just had a tooth extracted. What's this now? And furthermore, if I told you that as a result the victim had been forbidden from eating. Ding, ding, ding. Just what are you trying to say, Cadet? He had orders not to eat, so what? It's all written up in here. No food or drink other than water for 3 hours post-procedure while anesthesia wears off. Nani? No, that can't... Korikuta? What, boy? What? As you just heard, when he was killed, sometime shortly after 2 p.m., the victim couldn't have been eating anything at all. No! Additionally, there's more! You have assured the court with unwavering self-confidence that the victim was dining alone. But that cannot possibly be the case. Because the victim, as we now know, had just had one of his teeth extracted and was still experiencing the effects of anesthesia. Expertly done, partner. Objection! What is this nonsense, you little upstart? These are baseless accusations. Just look at this photographic evidence. You can clearly see the plate of food at the victim's table.
Objection!
Objection. Use your head. That's the very discrepancy we're talking about. Or can't you follow the logic? How dare you? I think it's fair to say that the tables in this restaurant case have turned. I see what you did there. Wouldn't you agree, Ryunosuke? Oh, yes. Yeah, definitely. So having just undergone some dental surgery, the victim was unable to eat. Which leaves one very crucial conundrum. Who, in fact, was eating the pictured beef steak? The court will hear the opinion of the defense on this new puzzle. I assume you're ready, counsel? Counsel? Oh, that means me, doesn't it? Alright, the answer to the question is going to be pivotal. This is the start of you turning the trial around. Show them what you're made of. Got it. So, The person eating the steak at the victim's table must have been me, the two witnesses, an as yet unknown third party. Take that. Obviously, it can only have been someone else who was sitting at the professor's table. Objection! You will not let this go, will you? There was no such person. Yes! I mean, no, there was, because I saw her. When the incident occurred, we know that the victim couldn't have been eating anything. Yet we have evidence of a half-eaten steak on his table. Therefore, the only logical conclusion is that there was somebody else there eating it. We have strong evidence to support our assertion. It's clear that these witness testimonies are unreliable. If the court decides to push through a ruling at this stage, we will lodge a formal complaint with the Ministry of Justice and pursue a fair retrial relentlessly. Kazuma! Are you insane? You would take on the government? Don't worry, counsel. I have no issue with you. What do you mean? I have issue with them. Those two witnesses in the stand. What are you talking about? We have demonstrated with evidence that the victim was not alone. So, if it now turns out that the two of you deliberately lied when giving your testimonies, obviously you will be charged with perjury. Perjury? And since this is a murder trial, you will also be deemed complicit in the killing. Complicit in murder? No! Hold it. Negative. There was no mention of this at the tactical meeting. I was just following orders. That's right. As the man says. Just say you never saw the gentlewoman. That's what they told us. Oh. I said the quiet part out loud, didn't I? What? What did you just say, Korukuta? Oh, no. You were just following orders? Hold on, lad. I was, Say you never saw the gentlewoman? When you say gentlewoman, do you mean you saw the victim with a lady from overseas? Okay, how about now? Is this finally available? It is. Well, that's unexpected. What is it? Look, do you see it? It says the witness's name here. Satoru Hosonaga. Well, yes, business cards do tend to show the person's name. That's sort of the point. It's not the name that's unexpected, it's his job title. His job? Oh! Chief Inspector Satoru Hosonaga, Primary Criminal Investigation Division, Imperial Police Bureau. Investigator? What on earth? I have no idea. But let's face it, the police have a lot of power and influence if they're wielding it somehow. Here. Aha. Interesting. Very interesting. but stupid. Okay. Objection! What is the meaning of this? These witnesses gave false statements? Is this true, you pair? Just one simple slip of the tongue. Back. Order! Counsel, explain what's going on here. It's painfully clear now. You tried to prevent these witnesses from telling the truth. Absolutely not. The prosecution knows nothing of this. Then who's behind this? Who tried to make you keep your mouth shut? Well, that's classified. So you're prepared to be tried as a conspirator to this murder, are you? You wouldn't. This can't be happening. Renosuke, judging from the way they're reacting to this, I'd say they were sworn to silence by someone with considerable influence. However, I don't believe Ouchi had any idea about this. What are you saying? I mean, to wield that kind of influence, there are only a handful of possibilities. It could only have been the government, the military, or the police, I suppose. Well, any idea about who might be behind this? If we can affirm who tried to silence those witnesses, then we can continue our pursuit. So we need to name whoever it was that tried to make the witnesses keep their mouths shut. Of course, we'll need evidence before we make any firm accusations. Evidence that proves whoever it was really did wield his or her power here. But how? How can we possibly? Remember how we made progress before? We examined this piece of evidence in more detail and found a new clue as a result. Oh yeah, that's right. Well, that's not the only piece of evidence we have, is it? We need to re-examine everything and make sure there's nothing we've missed. There's no time to lose. I want answers. If it's proven that these witnesses have been manipulated, I assure you the penalty will be severe. Please wait, Your Excellency. I had no clue about any of this. I swear to every Shinto god. I know nothing. What does the defense have to say about this? Well, Your Excellency. No time to think. I'm just going to have to close my eyes and shout out the first name that comes into my head. Besides the prosecution, the only person with the necessary influence to manipulate the witnesses is... I mean, it could have been him, but it makes much more sense if it's this guy.
Yes!
Yes! Well, surely that would be Satoru Hosonaga. Hosonaga, the waiter who took the stand earlier? Objection! Poppycock! What possible reason would the waiter have to make these witnesses give false testimony? Not to mention the fact that even a head waiter could not possibly have that level of influence. For once, I would agree with you. If, that is, the man truly were a waiter. What? If he truly were? Come on, Renosuke. Time to hit the court with the truth. The truth about about Satoru Hosanaga's real identity as proven by this evidence.
Yes!
Yes! The plan of the restaurant sketched by the man in question? I agree it shows a great deal of attention to detail, but I'm not sure we can conclude anything. Sorry, Your Excellency, that's the back of the card. It's the back of the card that's of interest. I beg your pardon? Or perhaps I should have said the front. Yes, it's the front of the back of the card. That's where the telling detail is. Would somebody please explain what this overexcited student is trying to say? Osanaga sketched the plans of the restaurant on the reverse side of his business card. The front of the business card reveals the man in question's profession, his true profession. The waiter's profession? But that's surely... Good gracious! That's right, Your Excellency. The card reads, Chief Inspector, Primary Criminal Investigation Division, Imperial Police Bureau. Nani? The waiter is a police detective? I haven't heard any mention of this before. Why haven't I heard any mention of this before? The Imperial Police Bureau has immense power, absolute power as far as regular civilians are concerned. So, witnesses there in the stand? Was it in fact the waiter who gave you your orders? Was it he who told you not to mention that you'd seen this foreign gentlewoman at the scene? Well... Hold it! Inspector Hosonaga! I was worried something like this may happen. The moment you asked me to submit my sketch as evidence, I realized it was a possibility. The court will take this plan and... Oh, this is the flashback. Yes, I remember now. He did act strangely when the judge asked him to hand over his business card. I strive to carry out all investigations flawlessly. It's my guiding principle. But I let myself be distracted when I made that sketch. It was an unusually careless mistake. So, you mean to say you really are a detective? But why would a detective be working as a restaurant waiter? Lucy the cat is back. Okay, don't be a pest. But why would a detective be working as a restaurant waiter? Ah, of course. Your salary. I was working undercover. Thank you. He cut me off. Undercover? Yes, there have been a series of incidents at the restaurant recently. In order to investigate, I decided to get a job there as a waiter working undercover. Incidents at the restaurant? What kind of incidents? That would be classified police information, which I am not at liberty to divulge. However, I can state categorically that they are unrelated to this case of homicide. Very well then, Inspector Hosonaga, but you will elaborate on one point for the record. Of course, Your Excellency. We have just heard new information from the two witnesses beside you. That at the time of the shooting, there was in fact another person present at the victim's table. If that is indeed true, clearly you would also have been aware of this person's presence, having served at the table in question. However, your testimony did not allude to this other diner. Therefore, I am led to assume that in your professional capacity as a police officer, you required those witnesses to be in agreement. Would that be correct? Yes. And my Ebola is back. Correct, Your Excellency. Unbelievable! As I suspected. Bang. As soon as I heard the gunshot, I ran out of the kitchen to see what had happened. The victim sat slumped in his chair, and beside him, gun in hand, stood the accused student. Sitting opposite the victim at the same table was a young lady whom I guessed to be an English woman. So the truth comes out. I immediately sealed off the restaurant and reported the incident to the Bureau. It was then that I received some special orders. Special orders? You mean to say, remove the English woman from the scene at once? It was made clear that the English woman's presence at the restaurant was to be concealed. Those were my orders. But what if this English woman was the killer? I think it would be in everyone's best interest not to pursue that idea. The Empire views the friendly terms of it. Oh, God. The Empire views the friendly terms of its relationship with Britain more highly than anything at the moment. An Englishman has been murdered on our soil. To name an English woman as the primary suspect, well, without irrefutable evidence, that would be completely out of the question. So that's the reason for the disappearance of the Phantom Woman in this case. But it's not right. One possibility does spring to mind. What do you mean, Kazuma? Yume University is currently hosting a number of exchange students from Great Britain. And I'm fairly certain that one of them, studying in the medical faculty's research laboratory, is a young English woman. Nani? You're a shrewd man. I can see why you're the chosen candidate for the overseas study tour. You mean? When I removed the woman from the scene of the crime, I thought it prudent to check her identity first. Then the court demands you name the lady in question at once, Inspector. The English woman sitting at the university professor's table was a certain Miss Giselle Brett. She is indeed a foreign student studying in the research laboratory of Yume University's medical faculty. What is happening here? I admit that under orders from the police bureau, I erased all evidence of this lady's presence at the scene and ordered these witnesses to make no mention of her in their testimonies. must now be up to your excellency to decide how to deal with this situation. You will all be charged with perjury. Very well, my thoughts on the matter are as follows. Thus far, the case presented to the court has been underpinned by a particular critical premise. Namely, that the victim was dining alone. However, as we have now discovered that this premise is false, it would be a desecration of our justice system to ignore the truth and give a ruling at this point. Objection! But, Your Excellency! That would mean missing the noon deadline of the ruling in order to send a telegraphic report to Great Britain. Our own government will surely be very displeased by such actions. Calm yourself, Counsel. I will not allow the government of our country or any other to influence the proceedings of my courtroom. Oh, this guy just grew a spine. Inspector Hosonaga? Yes, sir. You will locate this Giselle Brett and escort her to the courtroom with the utmost urgency. At once, Your Excellency. But that means you'll be going against the special orders you were given from the police bureau. As I said before, it is my guiding principle to carry out all investigations flawlessly. So it won't be a problem? Nothing will get in my way. Maybe the flu. Court will adjourn briefly. The prosecution must call the English student Giselle Brett to the witness stand. Do I make myself clear? Yes, Your Excellency. Good. Then we will have a 30-minute recess before reconvening. Clack. To be continued. Wow. I don't think the entirety of the first Phoenix Wright case was this long. Save your current progress? Yes. Alright, and we'll just... Oh, look at that. You can actually see the date on which I recorded this. Well, that's one cover blown. That this is months later that you're watching this. Happy Thanksgiving from the past, I guess. Anyway. November 22nd, 11:38 a.m. Is that a Star Wars reference? Or what was that movie? THX 1138. Anyway. Excellent work, Renosuke. That was superb. My heart was in my mouth the entire time. It was almost unbelievable. I mean, looking at you in there. You were drenched in sweat, your eyes popping, your knees knocking, and you were grinding your teeth. It was a grim sight, but before I knew it, you'd started finding inconsistencies in their testimonies. I think you might have a natural talent for being a lawyer. Forget it. It's terrifying. If I get through this, I don't ever want to see the inside of a courtroom again. Anyway, looks like we've exposed your Phantom Lady at last. Miss Giselle Brett, a student from Great Britain. Is she? That's what I was trying to tell everyone from the start. Dr. Wilson wasn't alone. there was a young woman with him, like I've been saying all along. Yes, you have, haven't you? I might not be overly confident in the courtroom, but my powers of observation are one thing I am sure of. Yes, I can see that. So about this young gentlewoman. Thanks to our detective friend, she was hastily escorted away from the scene, it seems. Did you see what happened with that? No, I didn't see anything. I didn't see any of it. I was just on my way out of the restaurant myself. Then on the floor next to Dr. Wilson's table, I noticed there was a gun lying on the floor. And just after I bent down and picked it up, bang. I didn't have time to think about where the sound of the gunshot came from. The waiter ran over to me looking as white as a sheet, and he bundled me into some sort of small pantry next to the kitchen. Fast thinking by the detective, he apprehended his suspect without a moment's delay. Yes, and because I was shut in the pantry, I have no idea what happened outside in the dining area. Ah, there you are. Well done, both of you. Professor Mikotoba. Well, it seems I was right. The pair of you make an outstanding team. You're exceeding my expectations, I have to say. Yes, it seems you planned this from the start. You arranged things so that I wouldn't be able to act as a lawyer in this trial. Our modern country is still in its infancy, our justice system even more so, which is why I firmly believe that we need to send our brightest young stars overseas to learn all they can. I wanted to avoid a situation that may have resulted in your study tour to Great Britain being cancelled. Well, it makes no difference. Lawyer or otherwise, if I'm the kind of man who can't help his best friend avert the worst crisis of his life, I shouldn't waste everyone's time by going to study overseas anyway. What? What are you saying, Kazuma? So that's your stance. I was afraid you'd feel that way. Kazuma! Well then, it looks like it all comes down to you, young man. To me? Yes, you need to prove your innocence and uncover what really took place in that restaurant. I must say, I very much want to know the truth. After all, I have a personal connection to this case. Come to think of it, he said the same thing earlier this morning, didn't he? If you don't mind me saying, or if you don't mind me asking, Professor, did you know the victim? Yes, I did. As you're probably aware, Dr. John H. Wilson was a visiting professor at UMA, and it was I who invited him. Oh, I see. I didn't know that before. Anyway, you're about to go into battle. The victim was a university professor from Great Britain, and a well-known one at that. Naturally, our government is looking to identify and punish the culprit as quickly as possible. But let's not forget who we're going up against. The gentlewoman whose involvement our police bureau went to extraordinary lengths to hide. Yes, and I'm sure the prosecution will be using every tool at their disposal to quash your case. But I've no doubt that you pair will put up a good fight, right to the last. Best of luck. Thank you. Now then, I need you to run an errand at the university at once. There's something I think we may need. Of course. Good luck, Kazuma-sama. Defendant Naruhodo, court recess is over. Please make your way back inside the courtroom at once. It's time. Let's get back in. Let's get back to it, partner. Let's go in there and kick some butt and deal a decisive blow before these old fossils know what hit them. Kazuma. What? Thank you, really. What for? Well, if you hadn't said you believed it, if you hadn't said you believed me, then I'm fairly sure I'd already have been found guilty by now. Look, I have faith in you. As a lawyer and as a friend. Coming from you, that means a lot. If I'm found guilty in this trial, he's really going to give up on his dream of studying abroad. That's the kind of true friend he is. So this isn't just my battle anymore. Whoever we're up against, we absolutely cannot afford to lose. Alright then. I'll save the thank yous for after the trial. You can treat me to one of those sukiyaki meals I like from Yume Cafeteria on University Street. With an extra large portion, of course. 22nd November, 12:09 p.m. Supreme Court of Judicature, courtroom number 2. Clack. The court hereby resumes the trial of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Prosecutor Ouchi, have you managed to subpoena the witness? Yes, Your Excellency. Against all odds. And thanks to a certain young stripling, the prosecution is now under rather painful scrutiny from the government. Sorry. Let the government scrutinize. That's their job. It's nothing to worry about. It's highly unlikely that the good relations we've forged with Great Britain will emerge from this trial unscathed. Will you still think it's nothing to worry about when the new treaty breaks down and our nation founders? Again, terribly sorry. If the friendship between our nations is really so fragile, then the treaty isn't worth the paper it's written on. Well said. You really have nothing to worry about, Ryunosuke. What do you mean? A secret trial? Anxiety over some foreign government's opinion? A bungled investigation? Missing witnesses? Is this what our nation's justice system is? Is this the Supreme Court of Japan or of England? Shut up! Shut up, you jumped-up rookie boy! You and your friend know nothing. Nothing of the situation our nation finds itself in. By aligning ourselves with the great world power, we'll become strong. Diplomacy has never been more critical. Steady political maneuvering is what will secure our futures. I won't deny that I'm no expert. I'm just a student, and one who could arguably study harder. But standing here now in our Supreme Court, there is one thing that I feel very strongly. A country that fails to uphold the truth in its justice system is a country with no future at all. Well said, Renosuke. Despite the wide-eyed look of terror. Thank you, Counsel. This court is the pinnacle of our nation's justice system and exists slowly for the pursuance of truth. With that in mind, this trial will now resume with the next witness taking the stand. The visiting student from Great Britain, Miss Giselle Brett. Yes. Your Excellency. Good Lord. Well, what a delight it is to welcome such a fine gentlewoman to Japan, and from such a distant land. Tea. Someone bring English tea. In England, no discussions take place without tea. Is this true? No idea. So, ahem. Could we possibly trouble you to state your name and occupation for the court? Of course. My name is Satoru Hosonaga. I have been working undercover as the head waiter at the Lockout. Yes, we know all about you already. Inspector Hosonaga, where are your manners? In England, it's always ladies first. Is this true? No idea. More importantly, a little earlier today, you said something to me. You said your powers of observation are the one thing you're sure of. Oh yes, I think I did, didn't I? Yet your description of this amazing sight was simply a woman. Sorry, Renosuke, but powers of observation aside, your powers of description are sorely lacking. Guilty. So, dear lady, once again, if we may trouble you for your name and occupation, please. Oh, jeez. I'm terribly sorry, dear lady, but... What? This lady says her name is Giselle Brett. She comes from London, England. She's a visiting research student currently enrolled in Yume University's medical faculty. Oh my, what a rare treat to hear the dulcet tones of the delightful language of the British people. I'm afraid I don't understand a word you said, but it was as beautiful as a hummingbird's song. As far as I can tell, the detective is translating her words faithfully enough. Yes, I agree. You obviously do find an I'm sorry, what? Oh, you'll obviously do fine in England, Kazuma. Her English doesn't rattle you at all, does it? Nor you. You've clearly been paying attention. I'm sorry, start over. Nor you. You've clearly been paying attention in your English classes, Renosuke. The court thanks the beautiful lady for taking the stand. Now, if we may trouble you to confirm something, Miss Brett. 3 days ago, at a restaurant called La Carnival, a grim murder took place. The court has been led to believe that you were dining there with the victim, Dr. Wilson, at the time. Is that correct? Womp 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 womp. She says, yes. This could take some time. So even though she's studying here in Japan, she can't speak any Japanese? Womp 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 womp. Womp 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 womp. She'd like to apologize for disappearing from the scene. She says that she was due to make a presentation at the university, so she had to leave immediately. Interesting. When you're the one who engineered her escape. I was just following special orders from the Bureau. Well now, dear lady, would you be so kind as to cast your eyes over this photographic print? Seeing as you were so unfortunately present at the scene of the crime, could it be that your resplendent eyes caught sight of the wicked perpetrator, perhaps? Womp 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 womp. Apparently, it was a very frightening and sorrowful sight. Do you mean to say? Yes, it would appear the lady did witness the crime. The very moment when the accused, standing right there in this courtroom, shot the victim in cold blood. Order! Order in the court! Did you hear that, Your Excellency? Here we have an absolute conclusive witness statement. Well, it looks like it's clear now. Clear who our real enemy is. Unfortunately, I will have to ask you to formally testify, if you please. Kindly tell the court the exact nature of this frightening and sorrowful sight you described. Womp 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 womp. A frightening and sorrowful sight. Womp 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 womp. I had arranged to meet for a slightly late luncheon with Dr. Wilson that day. The professor was unable to eat, so I ordered for myself only a beef steak. Womp 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 womp. Okay, enough of that. That's the Peanuts adults. After a while, the accused came over to greet the professor, and they got into a fierce argument. Then, not long afterwards, the accused took the professor's gun and shot him right before my eyes. I don't carry a gun myself, so obviously I couldn't have been the culprit. This is... Oh, I didn't even get to read that. No, I didn't have any kind of argument with the professor at all. Objection! Objection! Quiet, you filthy wretch. Wretch. Look at you, you black-hearted blackguard. You look at this, and look at this snow-white angel. I'm sure even a dark-minded scoundrel like you can imagine whose words the court is going to believe. Ugh. You're still making the same mistakes, Renosuke. You mustn't blurt out when you're goaded like that. That's a lesson you need to learn. Oh, but he's so annoying. Of course, I was at the scene as well. I took statements from this lady and the two witnesses who testified before and reported back to the Bureau. It was decided that Miss Brett was not involved, so I let her go. The testimonies of the last two witnesses were completely worthless, however. Well, even so. On the day in question, the lady was wearing the same outfit as she is today. As you can see, there's nowhere about her person where she could conceal a firearm. I would think she could hide a gun almost anywhere in that outfit if she wanted to. Unless and until the precise location where the witness is to have hidden a weapon can be shown, this is moot. There are no pockets in my outfit. I have nowhere to hide a gun. Those are the witness's own words on the matter. This is ridiculous. If only I was allowed to lift up her dress, I could prove it. Don't think about doing anything rash, Renosuke. But I didn't fire the gun I picked up. There must have been another gun there that day. You're right about that, which means this lady was hiding a gun somewhere. Yes, that's what we have to prove now. And to do so, we will need to pull her testimony apart. The defense may now cross-examine the witness. Oh, yes, Your Excellency. Cross-examination. Alright, let's have a good look at these statements. Alright, arranged me slightly late for luncheon. The professor was unable to eat. I ordered for myself. For a while, the accused came over to greet the professor, and they got into a fierce argument. Then, not long afterwards, the accused took the professor's gun and shot him right before my eyes. I don't carry a gun myself. Okay, let's have a look at the court record here. See if there's anything. Oops. Okay. Okay, I'm getting a little ahead of the case here, but there are some differences here. Namely that here the glass has a little bit of liquid in it, but if we go over to the first one, there's nothing in this glass. And I do believe that there's some differences with the steak and the potted plant, or I'm sorry, the flower vase that should be right here is missing. So we either got a different table or some stuff got moved. Anyway, we gotta back up a bit. We gotta start pressing some of this stuff.
Yes!
Yes! After 2 p.m., in fact. That's really quite a late lunch, isn't it? Objection! You don't keep up with the latest fashions from Britain, do you? Late luncheons are in vogue, isn't that right? No. Lucy. A decisive English no has quite a sting to it. The gentleman is currently working in the victim's research laboratory, it seems. The gentlewoman, I mean. So it was apparently a daily occurrence that they would lunch together. But on the day in question, the victim had another appointment at the clinic first. Yes. Which we can prove from the medical report card that was submitted as evidence earlier. That's right. Miss Brett and the victim went to lunch following the victim's treatment, which is why it was so late. Yes, that all makes perfect sense. Such wonderful logic. What a shining example of English intelligence this fine gentlewoman is. So you both arrived at the restaurant. What happened next? The professor was unable to eat, so I ordered for myself only a beef steak. Oh, wait, I should be pressing these. Here we go.
Yes!
Yes! Okay. He was unable to eat, you say? And that was because he just had a tooth removed at Hoda Clinic, correct? That's right. You're supposed to actually check with the witness before answering. Was Miss Brett aware of that fact? It seems so, yes. She heard that the professor was to have some dental treatment. So that would mean that it was you who ate the steak pictured here. Is that right, Miss Brett? That's correct, yes. The print you have there shows the table exactly as it was left after the horrifying events. Exactly as it was left. Dear me, what a harrowing experience. To have traveled to a distant island on the far side of the world and be embroiled in such a tragic incident. Have no fear, my dear lady. I swear I will crush the evil fiend that has subjected you to this terrible plight. So the victim, Dr. Wilson, had nothing to eat or drink at all. That's right, other than some carbonated water. Just water? Yes, the professor was unable to eat, but he had been given permission to drink water. So it appears that the diners toasted their lunch with a glass of water each. They each raised a glass of carbonated water. What do you think, Renosuke, about the witness's last statement? It is meaningful. That last statement of yours, Miss Brett, has a profound bearing on this case. Well, how fascinating. Do tell us, what is this profound bearing, The significance of the statement will become apparent when the time is right. The defense calls for the witness's last statement to be formally added to the testimony. Well sidestepped, counsel. Very well, Miss Brett. Kindly repeat what you just said to be added to your official testimony. Gladly, she said. That was brilliant, Kazuma. I'm going to remember that one. Which one? The significance will become apparent when the time is right. I could really use that phrase. I'd hoped there are more useful tips you're picking up from this experience than that, Renosuke. I ordered beefsteak for myself. Cheers over a glass.
Yes!
Okay, yes! So, both you and the professor drank this carbonated water, did you? Yes. Being the waiter, I poured the 2 glasses myself. I clearly remember doing so. Except you're actually a detective. And the beef steak. That was for you, Miss Brett? We already established this. The lady says that she'd heard it was not customary to eat beef until here in Japan until the lady says that she'd heard it was not customary to eat beef here until Japan opened its doors to the world. Yes, that's true. What a frightful place. is the lady's opinion. And I've heard it's not customary to eat sashimi in Great Britain. Now that's frightful. Every country has its own cuisine. As long as people have food to eat, what does it matter what it is? True, come to think of it, the first time I tried carbonated water, it was much more of a shock than the first time I tried beef. But anyway, back to the witness's statement. Somehow I feel like there's something out of place in what she's saying. We need to pounce on even the slightest thing now, because you never know what might lead us to our goal. Our goal of turning this trial around. Understood, Kazuma. After a while, the accused came over. Okay. I ordered a beefsteak for myself, and the professor and I said cheers over a glass of carbonated water. Okay, let's check again. But then why is the steak in front of him? Why is he turned around? I don't remember what the hell was going on in this case. Wait a minute, let me see. Is that even the same angle? Hard to say. The floorboards are going diagonal that way. Okay, yeah, okay. Well, let's give it a try. Might be, our first strike, but...
Yes!
Yes! That's it! Let me just confirm something, please. It's to do with this photographic print. Just a short while ago, you spoke of this print showing the victim's table at the crime scene. That it was exactly as it was left. Okay, so it's about the missing glass. That's correct, the lady says. Well, that is, it's odd, very odd. Dear me, what's odd is the defense's inability to express itself. Ryunosuke, what is it about the print that looks odd to you? Well, obviously, it's the cheers. The cheers? Miss Brett just told us that she and the professor said cheers over a glass of water. But if that's true, there should be 2 glasses on the table, not 1. You're quite right, counsel. There's only 1 glass pictured here. Objection! Are we supposed to be impressed by this nitpicking over minutia? What possible difference does the presence or absence of a glass make on this case?
Objection!
Objection. Minutia, you say? Could it be that the detective here removed a glass from the table to conceal the lady's presence? Of course not. I would never do something so reckless. You hid her presence entirely, you... And you led us to believe that the steak was being eaten by the professor. But there should have been 2 glasses on the table. Or are you going to try to tell me that you can clink with only 1? That I'm I'm getting tongue-tied the longer this goes on. Or are you going to tell me you can clink with only one? You're quite right. I certainly took 2 glasses to the table. Inspector, what did this lady say? It would seem that it was Miss Brett who took the glass from the table. What? It was all so terrifying, everything that happened. I panicked and I thought I should try to hide the fact that I'd been there at all, she's saying. Good gracious. Sorry. There. As I assured the court before, this is of no consequence at all. Oh, please. We must remember that this student had just murdered this lady's luncheon companion before her very eyes. Who can blame her for concealing a glass or two in her state of disarray? That's absurd. Oh, really? So do we take it that you are now going to accuse this vulnerable young and beautiful woman of mischief? What? No. This can't be put down to mischief. I'd like to know exactly how the lady took the glass from the scene. It would seem that she slipped it into a small handbag she was carrying. A handbag, you say? Yes, Your Excellency, a small handbag pouch commonly carried by well-to-do women in England. So the beautiful lady has very graciously explained how and why she removed the glass from the scene now. However, the fact remains that this glass has absolutely no bearing on the case. This student has been trying to confuse the court with logical reasoning, but in the end it comes to nothing. No more pretentious accusations. You have wasted enough time already. Clack. Indeed, the lady has offered a satisfactory explanation as to why she removed this glass. I think, henceforth, we can consider the matter to have no bearing on the case. Counsel for the defense, are you in agreement? Well, I don't know, really. If you want to pursue this matter further, you're going to need to show that it has some deeper significance. Yes, you're right. So she took the glass away in her handbag. If there's a deeper significance there, it's... let's go with the handbag, I guess. Wait! The lady put the glass in her handbag, you say? Yes, do try to keep up. It's already been explained to the court that all English gentlewomen carry handbags for small items. Let me see. A little while ago, Miss Brett stated the following. There are no pockets in my outfit. I have nowhere to hide a gun. But what she forgot to mention was her handbag, in which it would be perfectly possible to conceal a gun. You're right! Well done, partner. I had a feeling you'd pick up on that too. What are you insinuating, you vile blackguard? It's really very simple. The gunshot was heard when the defendant picked up the gun from the restaurant floor. As he didn't fire that gun, we can deduce there must have been another firearm at the scene. The true murder weapon, if you will. You can't seriously be suggesting. Inspector Hosonaga. Yes? Did you or did you not search Miss Giselle Brett's handbag on the day of the murder? No, sir. I did not. As I thought. In other words, another gun, the one that was actually used to kill the professor, could have been hidden in Miss Brett's handbag. No! Order! Order! What is the meaning of this, Inspector? The meaning of what, Prosecutor Ouchie? Why on earth did you not have the lady open her handbag and show you the contents at the time? Thanks to your bungling incompetence, now she has to endure these uncomfortable accusations. Brilliant work, partner. Now we have a chance to expose the real woman behind the mask. Do you think so, Kazuma? Well, what a sorry situation. Clearly you have no faith in the police. Should we? As I said, I did not search the lady's handbag after the shooting, simply because it was unnecessary. Unnecessary in what way? I ought to thank the student lawyer, really. I have a piece of evidence here that I had completely forgotten about. This photographic print. This print is of a photograph that I thought would be prudent to take immediately after the shooting. As you can see, it clearly shows Miss Brett's handbag. Well, I never. You could see right through to what's inside. That's right. Apparently, meshwork bags like these are the height of fashion in London at the moment. So the contents are clearly visible. Exactly. So there was no need to search the lady's handbag. If there had been a gun inside, it would have been immediately obvious. As you can see, there's nothing to imply Miss Brett's guilt here at all. Thank you for helping to prove that, Naruhodo. Order! Order! Oh my goodness. Okay. Inspector Hosonaga, you will submit that print as evidence at once. Certainly, Your Excellency. Has been entered into the court record. Okay. I think you've had long enough to cross-examine the witness counsel. The court has now been sworn... The court has now been shown considerable evidence, as the photographic print just submitted into the court record appears to have no further significance. I am satisfied that there is no longer any room for doubt in this matter, and I must make my ruling. Indeed, there is only one logical conclusion. that the pathetic rookie slumped over the bench before us is the only possible perpetrator of this crime. No. Just when I thought I was beginning to turn things around, I'm in a worse situation than I was at the start. Even Kazuma's like throwing in the towel. Kazuma? I'm sorry, Rinosuke. Now that the cross-examination of the witness is over, there's no way to force the trial to continue. What? You mean this is it? I must say you put up quite a fight for a rookie student. But the weak are meat while the strong eat. You were wasting your time. There is no way to defeat true justice. A fact you can chew on to your heart's content from the inside of your cell. This can't be happening. Am I really going to be found guilty of a crime that I didn't commit? And Kazuma, his dream of going to study in Great Britain will slip through his fingers. Kazuma. What? Is there really no chance now for turning this trial around? You heard the judge. There's nothing about the last photograph the detective produced that we can contest, which means there's no basis on which we can argue for the trial to continue. Very well, I will now proceed immediately to the ruling. It seems we will be able to report to the British government on time after all. That smug little Rinosuke Naruhoto, having considered all the evidence placed before... Yes! What? Wait, Your Excellency. Rinosuke. I don't think you can rule on this case yet. Objection! This amateurishness is getting tedious. When His Excellency deems that the trial is over, he gives his ruling. That is the most basic protocol of the courtroom.
Yes!
Yes! However, Your Excellency, just a moment ago, you said this. As this photographic print just submitted appears to have no further significance, there is no longer any room for doubt in this matter, and I must make my ruling. Now, that means that if there was a problem with the evidence, some significant detail I mean, then ruling on the case at this time would be out of the question. Objection! This is a blatant straw clutching. Look at the photographic print. All it shows is the handbag the gentlewoman was carrying on the day in question. There can be no problem with this evidence. You'd better know what you're doing, Rinosuke. I understand your objection, counsel. Certainly the new evidence submitted by the detective has not undergone the court's scrutiny. However, I fail to see how we can glean any new information from this handbag. Ha! My thoughts exactly. Really, the prosecution is becoming tired of this rookie's desperate wheezes. Yes, I am desperate, but this isn't a wheeze. There's something about this photograph which just doesn't seem right. If only I could put my finger on it. Very well, I will grant the defense one final opportunity. What? But be warned that if I am unsatisfied by your response here, the trial will be over with immediate effect. He's threatening with the gavel. Do I make myself clear? Yes, Your Excellency. So, take another look at the photographic print Inspector Hosonaga submitted before. You will identify for the court where in this print we see the significant detail to which you have alluded. Okay. That looks like it right there.
Yes!
Yes! Look at this here. There's a very unusual mark on the victim's wrist. This is true. It looks almost like a burn of some description.
Objection!
Objection! Dear me, what... Dear me, I was pondering what new piffle you would come out with. A burn, you say, on the victim's wrist. Clearly that has nothing whatsoever to do with the magnificent lady's handbag. Yes, that's a burn mark, you're right. Go on, Inspector. The police coroner also noticed it when he was performing the post-mortem examination. It was deemed unrelated to the cause of death, so he didn't note it in his report. What did I tell you? In any case, we have no idea when the victim suffered this burn, do we? And no possible way of knowing either. The more I look at it, the more I find myself intrigued by the curious shape of this mark. However, as Prosecutor Ouchie points out, unless a firm connection to the case can be shown, I cannot allow any further time to be spent on the precise details of this burn. Excuse me, Your Excellency. It would seem Miss Brett has a lunch appointment with the dean and other university staff. She would like to know if she may be excused from the stand. Oh, of course, dear lady. We shan't hold you up any longer. I'm quite sure His Excellency is about to give his final ruling anyway. What's your thinking on this, Ryunosuke? Do you believe this burn does have something to do with the case? To be honest, I'm not really sure. But if I don't keep pushing, then it's all over. So I was thinking I should keep digging and digging in the hope that I might uncover something useful. Yes, you're right. I am? If we can just link that burn to the case. If we can do that, we might be able to what? I'm just gonna use the word that I don't. We might be able to pry the shutting door back open again. Just give up, Counsel. You can't possibly hope to do that. Indeed, I'm afraid that without evidence, I can't allow you to pursue what is little more than conjecture. But if we had evidence that irrefutably linked the burn on the victim's wrist to the case, then you would allow it? I would, yes. To tell the truth, I hadn't noticed that burn. But as soon as you pointed it out, what I did notice was the color draining from Miss Brett's face. Really? I have to find some link between that burn and the case. This is the moment of truth. It's time to find some evidence that proves what that burn really means. Clack. So then, the defense will now present its evidence to the court. The evidence that demonstrates an inextricable connection between the victim's burn and this trial. Oh no, not that. Well, let's see again. Aha.
Yes!
Yes! What's this, Counsel? Yet another print? Yes, Your Excellency, I believe photographic prints are an amazing invention. When we humans look at a scene, we miss things. But in a photograph, things we may have overlooked at the time are recorded forever. Do hurry up, Rookie. What are you trying to say? To inconvenience this poor lady any further really would be quite inexcusable. Actually, we may need you to stay with us a little longer if you don't mind, Miss Brett. You see, it's very clearly visible in this other photograph. How did the victim come to have that unusual shape burned on his wrist? The reason is recorded here forevermore. What? How? Objection! You can't fool me with your little bluffs, boy. That's your game, then let's see how it plays out. Show the court exactly what you mean. What is it in this photograph that explains the reason for the victim's burn? Okay, it's right here.
Yes!
Yes! The beef steak? Actually, the point is the metal plate the beef steak was served on. The plate? Ah! Your Excellency, are you all right? As you can see, there's an emblem on the plate. I would guess it's some sort of trademark of La Carnival. Ah! This emblem on the plate and the victim's burn are exactly the same. Ah! Renosuke, you genius. You're spot on. Which means the victim must have suffered this burn while he was present at the restaurant. Objection! But even if that is the case, we can't know if it happened on the day in question or not. It could have been the day before, or the day before that, or most likely happened at some other unrelated time. Well, Objection! Sadly, Prosecutor Ouchie, the chances of that are extremely slim. Thanks. Why? The outline of the burn is clearly discernible. Such a serious injury would have caused quite a commotion in the restaurant. Wouldn't you agree, Inspector Hosonaga? I can't imagine having missed such a terrible disaster, certainly. But... I would say, looking at the picture of the wound, that it wasn't suffered very long ago. And although it's not a particularly large burn, it's extremely well defined, as the defense just pointed out. This was no mild burn, that's for sure. Can you be more specific, Inspector? Well, let's see. If the plate was at around 90 degrees centigrade, a burn like that could have taken around 3 seconds. It's inconceivable that the victim wouldn't have let out a scream of pain then. I've been investigating at the restaurant for several weeks already, and I've not heard anyone scream at all. As the head waiter of La Carnival, I can testify to that without hesitation. But you're a detective, not a waiter.
Yes!
Yes. There you have it. Something isn't right here. As the detective said, anyone who burnt themselves on a piping hot plate for 3 whole seconds would scream in pain. There's no question of that. And yet Inspector Hosonaga never heard the professor scream. Not on that day or any before it. That's right. And the strange thing is, on the day he was shot, I didn't hear him cry out either. What are you suggesting? Well, if the professor had carelessly laid his wrist on the plate for anything like 3 seconds that day, that would be beyond careless, I think, Counsel. Then the rest of us in the restaurant, myself, the sergeant, and the antiques dealer, all of us would, without any question, have heard him scream. Wouldn't you agree, Prosecutor Ouchie? Well, yes, I suppose. So the question is, why didn't a single person hear Dr. Wilson scream? I almost don't believe it. Renosuke, do you think? I don't think. I know. Can it really be true? I never dreamt we'd arrive at a conclusion like this, but I'm starting to think that maybe we've been led into a terrible trap. There's only one explanation I can think of to make sense of this apparent impossibility. On the day in question, when he suffered the burn to his wrist, Dr. Wilson hadn't noticed the burn, was asleep. I love these alternative suggestions. But the real answer is, was already dead. No man could remain silent while his wrist was burning on a piping hot plate for 3 whole seconds. That's clearly impossible, apart from in one particular situation. Counsel, are you suggesting? Yes, it's only possible if the man was already dead. Already dead? Knowing what we know now, it's the only possible explanation. When the beefsteak was brought to Dr. Wilson's table that day, the professor was already dead. That's madness! Madness? This is a court of law. Order, please! Counsel, explain this absurd notion at once. The victim was killed by a gunshot. That's right. That's absolutely right, Your Excellency. This is just another ridiculous ploy by the rookie student, but clearly he has no grasp of the facts.
Objection!
Objection. No, Prosecutor Ouchie. It's you who has no grasp of the facts. I beg your pardon? As soon as it became apparent that the victim had suffered the burn while at the restaurant, this whole case was turned upside down. Or have you not grasped that yet? Your Excellency, the court must hear from this witness again. It's true, as we now believe, that the victim was already dead before the gunshot was heard. It's highly likely that Miss Brett knows something about it. Incredible! I certainly didn't anticipate this twist of events. I'm sorry to say, Miss Brett, but you ain't going nowhere. You will have to forget your luncheon engagement. But Your Excellency! The justice system in our country may be in its infancy, but rest assured, all reasonable doubt must be dispelled before I am prepared to pass judgment. Thank you, Your Excellency. What was that smile? Yes, of course. I mean, I'd be delighted to help. Especially if it helps relations between my country and yours. Miss Brett, you speak Japanese. Well, of course I do. I am studying in your country, after all. But then, why have you been speaking through an interpreter until now? My mother tongue, the Queen's English, is the most refined and elegant language in the world. As a gentlewoman, I try to avoid speaking in your vulgar tones as much as possible. But it seems the men in this land possess none of the chivalrous virtues of English gentlemen. So I can see that I shall have to lower myself to communicating with you on your own level. Oh, well, you are the epitome of a true English gentlewoman. We are truly honored by this lavish consideration you so graciously afford us. This guy is such a simp for this woman. I see. In that case, Miss Brett, I will now ask you to testify in your own words about the events leading up to the death of the victim, Dr. Wilson. So we're finally going to hear her own words on the matter. Things are getting interesting, Renosuke. Witness testimony. Unfortunately, I have no idea when the poor man burned his wrist like that. When the waiter brought my steak, the professor and I raised our glasses in a toast. As far as I've heard, the post-mortem report showed no other possible cause of death besides the gunshot. If there's some other way a man's life can be taken without leaving a trace, please do show me. But of course, this country's inferior investigative techniques probably wouldn't pick up on it anyway. Well, that's not a suspicious statement. That most captivating and beautiful testimony will go down in the Supreme Court's history. Thank you. Easy does it. I hope this is the last time I will have to sully my lips with the coarse tones of your unbecoming language. Oh, forgive me. I do hope I haven't insulted anyone. Not at all, not at all. It is a delight merely to hear you speak, dear lady. And it seems very clear from your testimony that this boorish talk of the victim's burn is utterly irrelevant. I will be speaking to your country's Minister of Justice about what has happened here today. The Minister of Justice? May that irritating little bully of a student be given the harshest punishment possible. Amen. Thanks. Was that a prayer then? Well, you'll have to forgive the irritation, Miss Brett, and put up with a cross-examination now. I expect you've noticed that this little bully of a student, as you put it, doesn't miss much. I'm sure I don't need to remind you, counsel, that this will be your final cross-examination in this trial. If you fail to demonstrate any problems with this witness's testimony, I will be ruling on this case immediately. Is that clear? Yes, Your Excellency. Then you may proceed with the cross-examination. Here we go. Unfortunately, I have no idea when the poor man burnt his wrist like that. Okay. The waiter brought my steak. Okay, I think it's... Okay, this is the one I want to try first.
Yes.
She's alluding to poison. Fury, what do you mean by that? In the lands of the Great British Empire, the police store everything found at a crime scene for later examination. But in this country, you investigate once and that's the end of it. Isn't that so? Quite right, La Carnival is open for business as usual today, just days after the incident. Exactly, which means that even if the investigation takes a different direction, vital evidence may be lost. Doesn't even occur to your naive detectives to try to preserve the crime scene. I'm trying to be as tactful about this as I can, you understand. Haha, a killer blow. The lady is as formidable as she is beautiful. Amazing. He's actually admitting our police may be flawed. Perhaps Prosecutor Ouchie is finally starting to see sense. I very much doubt that. Still, there's something about what Miss Brett just said. There was a moment before when something didn't seem quite right. What do you think, Renosuke? I think it's going terribly. No matter how much I press her, I'm not turning up any new information. Yes, as I suspected, she's a tough witness. We need to find a way to break her testimony, or the cross-examination will be over. But that would mean I have to find a way. There must be some clue somewhere to help us find a chink in her armor. Kazuma. What, Renosuke? There is one thing I noticed. Something that's been bothering me. Bothering you? You mean about Miss Brett? Actually, no. About the person standing next to her, Inspector Hosonaga. The detective? Yes, he seemed to react a little strangely to Miss Brett's last statement. I was wondering if it might be significant, if it might present an opening, maybe. Alright, I have an idea. Try pressing her on that last statement one more time. If you think so, but this time, instead of targeting the woman herself, let's see what we can get out of the detective. Alright then. I wonder what Kazuma's thinking. Find out soon enough, I suppose. Once I press Miss Brett on her last statement again.
Yes!
Yes! Who are you calling inferior? Okay. Click through all of this. Oh, Ouchie's gonna jump in just as he did before.
Wait.
Ah, here we go. Yes! There it is again. The detective's reaction is just the same as before. Why? Weird thing about Ace Attorney games is that you can go back through the cross-examination, and it's like rewinding time. You're responding to them as if you're able to go back in time and interrupt their initial statements. Up until now, the detective has been in the stand with Miss Brett as her interpreter. But things are very different now. For this testimony, the detective is just listening to what the English woman has to say. This could be a golden opportunity. What do you mean? When people are actually testifying, they're usually very careful not to let things slip. However, when they're listening to someone else speak, you'll find they often let their guard down. You're right, look at him. He's lost in his own thoughts. It's time to pursue the man and his train of thought. Sorry, pursue? I'll explain how to do it now, Renosuke. It's all to do with the witness marker. What marker? The moment we're focused on Miss Brett, who's the person actually making the current statement. But by moving the marker left and right with the D-pad, you can turn your attention to the other people in the stand. Again, this is something that you can do in Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney versus Professor Layton. While you're looking at the other witnesses, you're able to pursue them with the A button. If you can catch that person at just the right time, you might uncover some new information to pursue. If you ever notice a strange atmosphere among the people on the stand, take a good look around. Alright then, so first I should move the marker across with the oh, Jesus Christ, on the D-pad. Focus on the detective, then pursue him with A, and see what's on his mind. Here we go.
Wait.
Okay. Okay. Excuse me. Yeah, what's the meaning of this? See, I know you're dying, but I need to ask you something. Looks like you were thinking something just now, Inspector. Perhaps having heard what the lady next to you had just... Oh, it's getting late. Perhaps having heard what the lady next to you had to say. If there's something you'd like to say, please share it with the court. Objection! What is the meaning of this? It's the delightful Englishwoman who's testifying at the moment. Oh my god, I think I'm losing my voice here, guys. If you can't find fault with her testimony, then the cross-examination should be over immediately. Oh. Is that how it works? Absolutely not. The detective is in the stand, which makes him a valid witness. Yes, not to mention the fact that he's intimately involved in the case. Inspector Hosonaga? Yes? Do you have something to add in relation to the statement just made by Miss Brett? Well, yes. If you don't mind, I would like to speak. The lady is right. Our country's police practices are not as modern as those used in Great Britain. Which is why I, Satoru Hosonaga, always strive to make every investigation I'm involved in flawless. What do you really mean by that? I'll tell you what I mean. I won't have evidence lacking on my watch. I'm not afraid to take everything I can from the scene of the crime. It's preserving evidence, you see. I don't care if they call me a crime scene thief. I'm not ashamed of what I've done. Crime scene thief? Well, it looks like the lady's remarks touched a nerve there. Take this, for example. Ah. Is that... This is the bottle of carbonated water that I took to the victim's table on the day in question. And yes, it's lost all its fizz, having been opened 3 days ago now. But it was carbonated water. I don't care what anyone says. Yes, there's some left in the bottle. I can see it. One day our police force will be among the best in the world. The time is coming, I guarantee it. Of course, I'll never see that day. I can't say I condone the witness's actions, but I do understand the sentiment. The court will accept the glass bottle of water as evidence. Carbonated water bottle has been entered into the court record. Okay. Miss Brett. Actually, I'm going to take a look at that water bottle right now. The label is written in a foreign language that I don't recognize. Do you know what it says, Kazuma? I think it's French. This must be very expensive water. Yes, but what does it say? That's what I'm asking. Then go to France and ask. You could just say that you don't know. Silliness. So this carbonated water is the last drink Dr. Wilson ever had. Looks like there's a little left in the bottle. Although it's just plain water now. You know, I've been sweating so much I'm absolutely parched. I'll just have a sip of this to keep me going. No, Ryunosuke, you can't do that. It's evidence. For one thing, that's evidence. You can't go drinking evidence. Oh no, you're right. We don't know what might be inside, do we? You never cease to amaze me, Ryunosuke, in more ways than one. I wonder, could there be anything in that water? What's the matter? You've gone quiet all of a sudden. I think I might have just worked something out. An interesting possibility. Okay, I don't think there's anything else here. Okay, Miss Brett. Can you confirm this is indeed the bottle from which you drank on the day of the victim's death? Yes, it was that bottle. Why would you admit to that? What was that about? She seemed to avert her eyes when she answered the judge's question. Clack. Very well, counsel, you may resume the cross-examination. And the inspector will kindly control his fervor. Ahem. Unfortunately, I have no idea when the poor man burnt his wrists like that. Maybe brought my steak. The professor and I. Raise our glass of toast. Okay. Postmortem report shows no other possible cause of death. There's someone way to be taken without trace. Please tell me. But of course, countries. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to start pressing her on some things because I don't know of any. Let's take one last look at this. Yeah, that's the only thing that's visible. Okay, so there's nothing else about that.
Yes.
But his hand was on the searing hot plate for at least 3 whole seconds. You can't not have noticed. Do you think so? Let me ask you something. Sorry? Ever since I arrived at this courtroom, and even still now, the fly on those unsightly black trousers of yours has been wide open. You can't not have noticed, can you? Huh? What? What fun. You hadn't realized. The dear lady is absolutely right. As your friend, you've embarrassed me as well as yourself, Ryunosuke. Why didn't you tell me? Dr. Wilson was a true English gentleman. He chose honorable silence over a vulgar scream. Can your tiny brains imagine such a thing? Oh yes, I think my tiny brain can.
Yes.
Yes. Well, I can't. Anyway. waiter brought my steak. The professor and I raised. Okay. As you testified before, you were drinking carbonated water. Is that right? Dr. Wilson was only permitted to drink water at that time, if I remember. Which explains why he ordered that drink. Correct, waiter? Exactly as you say, sir. Although, whether or not the professor actually drank any of the water when I delivered the steak to the table, I'm afraid I don't remember that. Damn you. I have enough English to have understood. What's he saying? I have enough English to understand that. Is that a typo? I think what he's saying is I have learned enough English to understand that, at least. For the benefit of others in the court, it means bless you. Yeah, that might be a typo. That sentence doesn't really make any sense. I think it meant the exact opposite. Anyway, as far as I've heard, the post-mortem report shows no other possible cause of death besides the gunshot. Yes, it's written here in the paperwork. Fatal hemorrhage from ballistic trauma. Yes. Luckily for all of us, a little burn on the wrist isn't going to kill us. And as there were no other signs of trauma on the victim's body to indicate some other cause of death, it can only have been the bullet from your gun that put an end to this innocent man's life. Oh my god, don't you guys have ballistics? But it doesn't make sense. The burn must have happened straight away, when the plate was first brought to the table by the waiter. Yes, that's true. If it had cooled even slightly, it wouldn't have been able to make a burn like that. And if the victim burnt his wrist on the hot plate as soon as it was brought from the kitchen, then he must already have been dead at that point. Objection! And yet, the fact is that the victim was killed by a gunshot to the chest. Until you're able to show the court evidence to disprove that, this is a complete waste of time. I hope this is wrapping up soon. I'd like to go to bed. I concur. Prosecutor Ouchie is right. Anyway, if some other way a man's life can be taken without leaving a trace, please do show me. Yes! Without leaving a trace. If someone is shot or strangled or stabbed or thrown from a height, over a person's life is taken, there are always telltale traces on the body. Quite right, dear lady. And as our police force has thoroughly examined the body of the deceased, there can be no doubt. Isn't that right, Inspector Hosonaga? As I've said, I always aim for a flawless investigation. There would be physical traces with all those causes of death, that's true. But maybe there's some other way of killing someone that doesn't leave a mark. If, heaven forbid, you doubt me, young man, you're going to have to tell everyone how exactly you think the professor did lose his life. Otherwise, I'm afraid your argument falls rather flat, doesn't it? Oh no, perish the thought, calling such a sweet young lady's innocence into question. On my honor, Takesuchi Ouchi, will cut down any who dare cast such aspersions. A way of killing someone that leaves no trace. We need some evidence to back us up here. Yes, evidence. But of course, countries' inferior investigative techniques wouldn't pick up on any of it. What the hell am I supposed to do? Okay, let's look at the evidence again. My guess is that I have to present the bottle. I don't think this says anything new. Yeah, I don't know. But of course, this country's inferior investigative techniques up on it anyway. Okay, let's see what the... Okay, new evidence. Excellent work, Runosuke. I never even thought of pursuing another witness over the current witness's statements. That was a great idea of yours, Kazuma. Well, it was all thanks to you noticing that the detective had reacted strongly to what the lady had said. I'd never have guessed that he had all but bubbling away. Oh, I'm sorry. I'd never have guessed that he had all that bubbling away under the surface. To be honest, you keep surprising me at every turn. Sorry? Oh, never mind. So we know that Dr. Wilson was killed at around the time the steak was brought to his table, and by some means that left no physical trace on his body. If we could just demonstrate how it was done... Well, I do have one idea about that. How the professor was killed. Maybe I should just present the evidence and see what happens. Yeah, I guess. There's some other way, and life can be taken without okay. We're just gonna go for it.
Yes!
Yes! What is this? The bottle of water? Actually, there is one method of killing a man without leaving a trace that comes to mind. Obviously, I'm referring to poison. Poison? On the day of his death, we know that Dr. Wilson drank from this bottle of carbonated water. Could it be that there was poison inside? Could it be that the professor actually died after taking a sip from his own glass? Order, order, order! And on that day, who was sitting at the same table as the professor and able to sip the poison and able to slip the poison into his drink? There's only person... That's a typo. That is a typo. What it should say is there's only one person who could possibly have done it. Giselle Brett, it was you.
Objection!
Objection! This is outrageous. Truly, truly, truly outrageous. To suggest such a thing without a scrap of evidence, yeah, it is a bit outrageous. That's why I was kind of thrown by that. I didn't really have any evidence to present. You little rookie imbecile. Have you even considered the delicate situation our country finds itself in now? Have you forgotten that we have only just signed an accord of friendship with the British Empire? Have you even the vaguest inkling that your rash accusations could jeopardize the entire treaty?
Objection!
Objection. This is not a political arena. This is a trial to determine one individual's guilt with respect to one crime. What? The fact that this woman is British makes no difference. We are here to determine the truth. Ahem. If I may, I will silence you forever. Shut up! It is you who should be silent. Of course. Dear lady. Where did that come from? She just snapped. I'm afraid I may have spoken unfairly before. I offer my most humble apologies. I'm sorry, milady. Milady. To what are you referring? I described your police force as inferior. But no matter how inferior they may be, you still investigated this particular point thoroughly, I believe. The bottle, I mean, Inspector. And whether it contained poison or not. Of course. You did? Have you forgotten what my guiding principle is already? I strive for a flawless investigation every time. I don't believe it. Naturally, we tested the inside of the bottle and its contents. And? What did you find, Inspector? I ordered tests for every toxin that's available in this country at the present time. We could find no trace of poison of any description in the bottle of carbonated water, Your Excellency. What? Are you sure? The tests were meticulously carried out by the chief coroner himself. No. No! I'm very grateful to all you Japanese. You've successfully established my complete innocence in this horrid affair. Thank you. But of course, dear lady, the pleasure was all ours. Ryunosuke's wiped out. I was so sure. This can't be right. Everything falls into place. If he was poisoned. Thank you, counsel. I think that cross-examination has clarified everything. As the prosecution have asserted, there's only one guy there. As the prosecution has asserted, a shot to the chest from this gun is the only conceivable cause of death. Furthermore, the accused, who by his own admission was holding this weapon, is the only possible culprit. I'm done for. The court wishes to apologize for the great inconvenience this has caused you, Miss Brett. Oh no, I'm just glad the matter is resolved. Before proceeding, I must ask the counsel for the defense. Do you have any further new evidence to present the court at this point? Kazuma? I'm sorry, Renosuke. I have nothing more. Well, if you'll excuse me now, I really must be leaving. Beam me up, Scotty.
Hold it!
Hold it! Ah. Please wait. Isn't that... What is the meaning of this? Forgive me for intruding on court proceedings, Your Excellency. Susato Mikotoba, Judicial Assistant to the Defense. Mikotoba? In my darkest hour, with nowhere left to go, she appeared like a bolt of lightning. And in her hand, she carried a small package wrapped in a furoshiki cloth. A furoshiki cloth, I believe is how it's pronounced. To be continued. Alright. Thank you for watching. I'm going to hit the sack. Been a long night. I recorded 2 of these in a row. So, yeah, this is a lot of fun. I love this game. And I'll see you again next time. Later.